Li Mei's Sword of Destiny. Chapter 1342. He wasn't that great in the first place. Otherwise, why didn't he dare to accept your challenge? From what I see, if he didn't have the castle, he's nothing. Xia Chongjin snorted, his face full of disdain. But, hearing their words, Zhuge Mingyang didn't feel comforted at all. Instead, the anger in his heart became even stronger. Qin Feiyong wasn't that great? Qin Feiyong wasn't anything? Then what was he, the person who lost to Qin Feiyong, considered? He wasn't even worth shit? Zhuge Jinghong and Xia Chongjin wanted to comfort him, but in Zhuge Mingyang's ears, it felt like they were humiliating him. Zhuge Jinghong saw that the situation wasn't right and hurriedly explained, "Don't misunderstand, we didn't mean that. Even if you mean that, I don't care. Anyway, in this life, I won't be his opponent." Zhuge Mingyang laughed at himself. He picked up the wine jar on the table and started drinking. He didn't say that there was still the slave seal. Even if he trained hard and surpassed Qin Feiyong, as long as the slave seal was there, he wouldn't be able to turn the tables. Gotcha. Looking at Zhuge Mingyang's self-deprecating appearance, Zhuge Jinghong clenched his fists tightly. His killing intent towards Qin Feiyong became even stronger. Dong! Suddenly, there was a hurried knock on the door. Zhuge Jinghong looked at the door and let go of his fists. He said coldly, "Come in." Clang! The door was pushed open and a waiter hurriedly ran in. What happened? Zhuge Jinghong frowned. The waiter said, "Young masters, something big happened. Quickly go to the square." What big thing? Zhuge Jinghong stood up and looked at the waiter in shock. "You," the waiter stuttered. "Speak," Zhuge Jinghong said angrily. The waiter's eyes trembled and said, "Your foster father was stripped naked and thrown on the square. Now many people are watching." What? Zhuge Jinghong's expression changed. Zhuge Mingyang also stood up abruptly. The wine jar in his hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Xia Chongjin was dumbfounded. Who was Zhuge Nanhua? That was the hall master of the inner hall of the enforcement hall. His authority was monstrous. Someone actually dared to strip him naked and humiliate him in public? Who was so bold? Was he tired of living? The next moment, Zhuge Jinghong and Zhuge Mingyang rushed out of the window. Seeing this, Xia Zhongjin took out a few hundred gold coins, threw them on the table, and hurriedly chased after them. The three of them were in a private room at the back of the Fragrant Moon brothel, so they couldn't see the situation in the square. However, the Fragrant Moon brothel was just across the street from the square. With their cultivation, they would be able to enter the square in the blink of an eye. When they saw Zhuge Nanhua, who was squatting on the ground with a helpless expression on his face, Zhuge Mingyang and Zhuge Jinghong instantly burst into overflowing anger. "Godfather! Great-grandfather!" The two of them roared and landed beside Zhuge Nanhua at lightning speed. Zhuge Jinghong immediately took out a piece of clothing and wrapped Zhuge Nanhua up. Seeing Zhuge Mingyang and Zhuge Jinghong's arrival, the surrounding crowd immediately shut their mouths and retreated in fear. "Godfather, what's going on? Who did this?" Zhuge Jinghong squatted on the ground, grabbed Zhuge Nanhua's shoulder and roared with bloodshot eyes. However, Zhuge Nanhua was like a fool. He shrunk his head and glanced at the surrounding crowd. His face was filled with fear and panic. "Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Quickly take him and leave first." An angry voice sounded in the sky. Everyone looked up and their pupils suddenly shrank. They didn't know when the Grand Tutor had also arrived. Zhuge Jinghong and Zhuge Mingyang looked up at the Grand Tutor. Then they carried Zhuge Nanhua, opened a portal and hurriedly left. "Little bastard, you've gone too far," the Grand Tutor muttered. The murderous intent in his heart was about to go out of control. After the Grand Tutor left, Xia Chongjin walked out of the crowd and glanced at the bloodstains on the ground. His face was filled with shock. Who exactly was the person who humiliated Zhuge Nanhua? Was he not afraid of death? There was no suspense. This matter quickly became the talk of the town. Everyone knew about it. When the people of the Zhuge family received this news, they were also furious. Especially Zhuge Wuho. He directly spat out a mouthful of old blood and cried to the sky. The reputation of the Zhuge family was gone just like that. Bright Sky Palace. After so many days, there was no change at all. In the garden, the green grass swayed with the wind. It was full of vitality. Flowers bloomed one after another, attracting countless colorful butterflies and bees. Qin Feiyong stood in the sky above the palace and glanced at everything. Everything seemed so calm and peaceful. However, there were always a few reckless people who came to destroy the good atmosphere here. Outside the garden in a small green forest, a few figures were sneaking around. Without thinking, he knew that they were the people sent by the emperor to monitor him. However, Qin Feiyong ignored them and rushed into the main hall like lightning. When he entered the main hall, he was immediately stunned. He saw Fatso sitting on the throne at the top of the main hall with his legs crossed, drinking wine and eating melon seeds at the same time. He looked very spirited. Wang Yongfeng and the others were also like this. The whole room was filled with the smell of alcohol. Young master. Suddenly, Wang Yishan saw Qin Feiyong standing at the door and was shocked. He quickly threw away the wine cup. Young master? Boss. Fatso, Wang Yongfeng and the others were stunned. They turned their heads and looked. They all got up and hid the wine cup behind them. Not bad. All of you know how to enjoy yourselves. Qin Feiyong glanced at the crowd and said with an indifferent expression. Wang Yongfeng and the others looked at each other, quickly put down the wine cup and ran towards Qin Feiyong. They were all panicking. Young master, we were wrong. When they came in front of Qin Feiyong, the group of people lowered their heads like a group of children who had done something wrong. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but want to laugh. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong said with a straight face. We shouldn't be greedy for pleasure. And we shouldn't be tempted by fatso. We are willing to accept young master's punishment. Wang Yongfeng said. Fatso's face suddenly darkened and he said angrily, Old Wang, what do you mean by that? When did Fat Lord seduce you? Wang Yishan said. You were the one who seduced us. You have to take full responsibility. That's right. You know that it's our first time in the outside world and everything is new to us. You even encouraged us to drink. You have bad intentions. The others also said with righteous indignation. You old guys are too unreasonable. Everyone drank the wine and ate the food together. Why is it Fat Lord's responsibility alone? If you have the ability, spit it out. Fatso was instantly annoyed. But when Qin Feiyong glared at him, he immediately shut up. In fact, even without Wang Yongfeng and the others saying, he knew that it must be Fatso's doing. Because Wang Yongfeng and the others were very simple people. If no one instigated them, it was impossible for them to do such a thing. Qin Feiyong retracted his gaze and looked at Wang Yongfeng and the others saying, In fact, I don't object to you drinking. After all, everyone drinks wine including me. But I'm very angry that you drank at this time. Do you know why? Everyone shook their heads. Because you're in the palace. There are people everywhere who want to harm you. What if you drink too much and are plotted against? Qin Feiyong said angrily. So young master is concerned about us? Wang Yongfeng and the others looked at each other, feeling extremely touched but also ashamed. Qin Feiyong said, I hope this won't happen again. Yes. The group of people nodded respectfully. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled, asking, Did Fatso tell you about the opportunity to become a god? Yes. Everyone nodded. Then you guys go to the castle. Strive to raise your cultivation to the peak of 9-star war emperor in the shortest time possible, and then comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. Qin Feiyong said. Okay. Everyone replied, looking rather excited, because they already knew that the time rules in the castle were different from the outside world. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and sent everyone to the castle. Then he looked at Fatso. Fatso smiled embarrassedly and said, Boss, I saw that they were bored, so I asked them to have a few drinks together. There's no other meaning. Do I look like an idiot to you? Qin Feiyong walked in front of Fatso and said. Fatso shook his head like he was pounding garlic. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. Fortunately, he came back in time. Otherwise, he didn't know what Fatso would do to Wang Yongfeng and the others. He sat on the chair and asked, Have you found any clues about the disappearance of Lin Yi and the mermaid princess? Yes. Fatso nodded. Tell me quickly. Qin Feiyong didn't have much hope at first, but he didn't expect that Fatso actually found it. Fatso didn't speak. Instead, he took out a letter from his Cosmos pouch and handed it to Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong was taken aback. He took it in his hand suspiciously, opened the envelope, and took out the letter paper inside. There was a line of small words written on the letter paper. "We are fine, don't worry." But there was nothing else except this line of small words. Fatso said, "You and Linny have been together for 5 years. You can be regarded as childhood sweethearts. You should be able to see that this is her handwriting." Qin Feiyong nodded. These words were indeed written by Linny. Qin Feiyong looked up at Fatso and asked, "Where did you find this?" "At your home in Iron Ox Town. At that time, Old Wang and I searched all over the 9 provinces, but we didn't find any clues. So we went to Iron Ox Town. Because I thought that if Linny would leave a clue, she would definitely choose to stay in Iron Ox Town. After all, that's where she grew up. But in the end, there was no harvest in Iron Ox Town. Then I took Old Wang and the others to the courtyard by the lake. I was going to give up, but when I entered the hall, I immediately found this letter on the table. I also know Linny. I recognized her handwriting, so I came back with this letter." Fatso said. "In other words, after we left, she went to the lake to find us?" Chapter 1343. Do you think so? Fatso frowned. Otherwise, Qin Feiyong asked rhetorically. If Linny didn't go to him, why would the letter appear in that room? Fat Lord doesn't think so. Fatso shook his head. "What do you think?" Qin Feiyong asked. "Fat Lord thinks that she is deliberately hiding from you," Fatso said. "Hiding from me?" Qin Feiyong frowned. "Yes. She is not only hiding from you but also from all of us, including Luo Qianxue and Yan Nanshan. The reason is simple. If she is not hiding from us, then she can go to Luo Qianxue and Yan Nanshan and talk to them face to face. Or, she can give the letter to Luo Qianxue and Yan Nanshan and ask them to pass it to you. But she didn't do that. It's obvious that she doesn't want to see us," Fatso said. Qin Feiyong frowned. After a while he nodded and said, "It makes sense." Then he smiled and said, "Not bad. You actually see the problem so clearly." Fatso said. Fat Lord thought for a long time before he figured it out. Qin Feiyong said, "Then why doesn't she want to see us?" Fat Lord is also puzzled by this question. It's reasonable that Lin Yi doesn't want to see you. After all, your relationship with her is complicated. But the mermaid princess is deeply in love with you, and you have feelings for the mermaid princess. Normally, if she is going somewhere, she will definitely find a way to tell you so that you won't worry. But she actually left without saying a word like Lin Yi. What's the problem here? Fatso frowned. After pondering for a long time, Qin Feiyong let out a long sigh and said, "No matter where they are now, as long as they are safe." Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and calmed the restlessness in his heart. He asked, "Did Lu Xingchen look for me these past few days?" "Yes. It's not just Lu Xingchen. The state preceptor also sent Yan Wei to look for you every day. But Fat Lord replied to them according to your instructions." Fatso smiled. "What about Shun Mei?" Qin Feiyong said. "According to Lu Xingchen, the state preceptor has been personally watching over Shun Mei these past few days. Moreover, he hasn't left her side at all, so he hasn't been able to find an opportunity. And he looked for you because he wanted you to help him come up with ideas," Fatso said. "Watch over them personally?" Qin Feiyong was startled. He shook his head and said with a smile, "This old guy has learned to be smart this time, but it's useless. Yeah. Until now, he still doesn't know that Shun Mei can't threaten us at all, and he has always thought that the person who has been spying on him these past few days is you, but it's actually Lu Xingchen." Fatso sneered. "Lu Xingchen has been spying on him all this time?" Qin Feiyong was surprised. Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyong pondered and said, "In that case, Shun Mei is now out of danger." "Are you kidding? With the state preceptor personally watching over her, how could he save Shun Mei? And I heard from Yan Wei that the state preceptor has been using his divine sense to cover the place where Shun Mei is imprisoned. As long as Lu Xingchen enters with a spatial divine item, he will immediately be discovered," Fatso said. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said with a smile, No, the state preceptor left just now." "What?" Fatso was shocked. Qin Feiyong briefly explained what had happened in the pagoda. Fatso was dumbfounded. He had caused such a big commotion the moment he came back? However, this was more like his boss's style. Fatso gave him a thumbs up and gloated. Zhuge Nanhua has an important position in both the Zhuge family and the temple. Now that such a thing has happened, everyone in the Zhuge family must be mad. It's best if one or two of them die from anger. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and then said, "But why hasn't the seal returned yet? It's been so long, could something have happened?" "Speak of the devil." Whoosh! The seal rushed into the main hall like lightning and shouted, "Boss Qin, something bad has happened. Boss has drunk too much and is acting crazy in the inner city." "Acting crazy? What nonsense are you talking about? Isn't boss doing well here?" Fatso frowned. "The boss it's talking about is not me, but Lei Bao," Qin Feiyong said. "Lei Bao?" Fatso was stunned, and then there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Don't bother about it. In the few days you were away, it has been causing trouble in the imperial city every day. If you don't let it suffer a little, it won't know how to restrain itself." "Don't you like to cause trouble too?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. They were all the same, what right did he have to criticize others? "Can I be the same? At most I'll drink here, but what about it? You don't know how it has been tormenting these few days." Fatso was dissatisfied. "What did you do?" The seal looked at him curiously. At first it was causing trouble in the imperial palace. And the targets were all concubines and princesses. It either peeped at them bathing or stole their underwear. Those concubines and princesses have come to you more than once to reason with you. The most outrageous thing is that it even stole the imperial empress's underwear, and openly took it to the treasure pavilion to auction. You didn't see it. When the emperor heard about this, his nose was crooked from anger. Fatso said in disdain. The seal and Qin Feiyong looked at each other. Stealing the imperial empress's underwear to auction? This bastard is too immoral. Qin Feiyong asked, "Does the treasure pavilion dare to auction it?" "Of course not. That's the imperial empress's underwear. Who dares to play with it?" But that guy relied on its strength and directly occupied the auction house, forcing everyone to bid. In the end, it was auctioned at a high price of 300 million. Fatso said helplessly. Qin Feiyong's face twitched. 300 million for a piece of underwear. That's crazy. After causing trouble in the imperial palace, it went to other major cities to cause trouble. In short, every place it went to would be chaotic because of it. Now it's notorious. When everyone sees it, they can't wait to skin it. Fatso shook his head. Although he was a bastard in some matters compared to Lei Bao, he was thousands of miles away. That's not right. It caused so much trouble. Didn't the emperor think of a way to deal with it? Qin Feiyong was doubtful. Who said that? The emperor sent the commander of the Kirin army to capture it, but in the end, he was beaten up by it. You also know that with its strength, no one can do anything to it except a pseudo-god. And the pseudo-gods in the imperial palace are all sealed. They can't undo the seal to deal with it. After all, every time they undo the seal, they will lose some of their lifespan. For pseudo-gods like them who are nearing the end of their lifespan, every minute and second is very precious. Of course, that guy knows his limits. Although it's mischievous, it has never harmed anyone's life. In the end, the emperor had no choice but to turn a blind eye and let it do as it pleases. Fatso said. What about the state preceptor? Hasn't he been looking for a bargaining chip to blackmail me? Qin Feiyong said. You have Yen Wei to thank for this. Yen Wei told me that the state preceptor actually had plans to deal with Lei Bao, but Yen Wei told him that Lei Bao had only been with you for a short time and might not be able to blackmail you. He also said that instead of spending time to capture Lei Bao, it's better to let it cause trouble. Because the more trouble Lei Bao causes, the deeper the grudge between you and the emperor. When the state preceptor heard this, he felt that it made sense, so he didn't make a move on Lei Bao. Fatso said. I see. He has to keep an eye on the state preceptor and clean up Lei Bao's mess at the same time. It's really hard on him. Qin Feiyong sighed. That's right. That's why you should let it suffer a little. Once it has suffered enough, it will naturally become obedient. Fatso snorted coldly. No, if Xun Mei has really been rescued by Lu Xingchen, the state preceptor will definitely look for the next target immediately. Qin Feiyong finished speaking and looked at the seal. Didn't I tell you to come back immediately after throwing Zhuge Nanhua at the plaza? Why did you go look for your boss? I didn't specifically look for him. I saw that there was nothing going on, so I wanted to take a look. In the end, I went to the inner city and saw my boss. The seal said. Qin Feiyong frowned. Then why didn't you bring him back directly? I wanted to too. But he's completely drunk now and won't listen to anyone. The seal said helplessly. Qin Feiyong said angrily. How troublesome. Did he go to the Wuhou government to cause trouble? The seal said carefully. He's currently in a Wuhou government. I think it's Qin Wuhou. Qin Wuhou? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Previously he killed Qin Wuhou's biological son, Feng Yuan, in the Qin Wuhou government. Now Lei Bao went to the Qin Wuhou government to cause trouble? Was this a coincidence? This is bad. A few days ago, I told him that you have a grudge with Qin Wuhou. It can't be that he's going to help you deal with Qin Wuhou, right? Fatso's face changed as he said in surprise. Why can't there be anyone who can stop me from worrying? Qin Feiyong was furious to the extreme, and said in a deep voice, quickly follow me to find him. If Lei Bao really helped him deal with Qin Wuhou, then he might take advantage of his drunkenness and start a massacre there. Although the various Wuhou government had basically declined, their status was still there. If Lei Bao really started a massacre there, then the fake god in the back mountain of the Emperor Palace would definitely not sit idly by. However, just as he opened the teleportation gate, a figure appeared out of thin air in the hall. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. He turned his head and saw that the person was Lu Xingqian. Lu Xingqian sized up Qin Feiyong and said in surprise, how many days have you been in seclusion? You have already broken through to the 2-star War Emperor? Isn't your speed a little too fast? He still didn't know that Qin Feiyong's ancient castle had already undergone a change. Likewise, Qin Feiyong smiled faintly with a thought. Wang Yongfeng and the others appeared, and said in a low voice, you guys go with the seal. No matter what, you have to bring that guy back for me. Yes. Wang Yongfeng and the others respectfully replied, then followed behind the seal and entered the teleportation gate. Lu Xingqian looked at the backs of Wang Yongfeng and the others, his eyes flashing slightly. He looked at Qin Feiyong and laughed. There's a group of top-grade fierce beasts by your side. It must be a headache. His words carried a hint of schadenfreude. Obviously, he had already guessed what Wang Yongfeng and the others were going to do. No, on the contrary, I like them a lot because although they are bastards, they are loyal to me. Chapter 1344. Fatso stood behind Qin Feiyong. Lu Xingqian walked to the front of the chair and sat down. He looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled. Actually, I'm quite envious of you. Envious of me? Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked. Envious of you having such a group of loyal subordinates. Lu Xingqian said. Don't you have them too? What's there to be envious of? Qin Feiyong smiled. This is different. My subordinates are basically my descendants. It's natural for them to be loyal to me. But your subordinates are all strangers who you met by chance, but they are loyal to you. This is the fundamental difference. Lu Xingqian shook his head and sighed. Then do you know where the source of this difference is? Although they are working for me, I treat them as friends and family, but you treat them as your real subordinates. Qin Feiyong said. Friends, family? Lu Xingqian muttered to himself and then laughed. You were born in the royal family. It's impossible that you don't know that for people like us, friends and family are too distant. I agree with that. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. He looked at Lu Xingqian and said, look at your happy face. You must have encountered something good. Ha! Lu Xingqian laughed and said, I have to thank you. If you didn't lure the Grand Tutor away, I wouldn't have found the chance to save Shen Mei. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Did Lu Xingqian think that by humiliating Zhuge Nanhua, he was helping him lure the Grand Tutor away? On one hand, you humiliated Zhuge Nanhua and humiliated the Zhuge family. On the other hand, you took the opportunity to save Shen Mei. This is killing two birds with one stone. Brother Qin, this is a brilliant move. Lu Xingqian gave a thumbs up and praised. Qin Feiyong and Fatso looked at each other. Lu Xingqian really thought so? Lu Xingqian added, I owe you one this time. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. Ugh! Qin Feiyong and Qin Haodong were stunned again. They were the ones who planned to kidnap Shen Mei. This time the Mu family's vitality was greatly damaged, and it was also their plan. Now Lu Xingchen actually wanted to thank them? Fatso chuckled and said, "Boss, isn't this the so-called repaying evil with good? You think too much. Now Lu Xingchen is thanking us because he doesn't know that all of this is a trap set up by us. If they knew, they would probably want to kill us." Qin Feiyong snickered. However, he had to admit that looking at Lu Xingchen right now made him very happy. In the past, it was Lu Xingchen who schemed against him. This time he had finally gotten back at Lu Xingchen, and he had even paid him back with interest. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "We are partners. It's only right to help you. Why are you being so polite? You're treating me like an outsider, right?" Haha, Lu Xingchen laughed happily and said, "It was a wise decision to choose to cooperate with you. Of course. Whether it's you or boss, both of you are as cunning as old foxes. The two of you working together is simply a match made in heaven." Fatso chuckled. But when they heard this, Qin Feiyong and Lu Xingchen's faces couldn't help but darken. Match made in heaven? It seems a bit inappropriate to use this adjective to describe two grown men like them, right? Haha, it's not a good choice of words. It should be said that you're a jackal and a leopard, a perfect match. Fatso snickered. Their faces darkened and their veins bulged. This damn Fatso was getting more and more ridiculous. The Imperial Preceptor has arrived. But suddenly, a loud voice could be heard coming from the outside. "You're here so soon?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. He should be here for Zhuge Mingyang. "I'll leave." Lu Xingchen got up and said. "Leave?" Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and said, "Shen Mei has just been rescued. She must still be very scared now. You'd better go back and comfort her." "No need. Shen Mei's endurance is not as weak as you said." Lu Xingchen faintly smiled and disappeared without a trace after he finished speaking. Qin Feiyong immediately frowned. Fatso was a little puzzled and said, "Boss, why did you ask Lu Xingchen to go back? The Imperial Preceptor will definitely talk about Zhuge Shunfeng later. I don't want Lu Xingchen to know about Zhuge Shunfeng's existence. But this guy seems to have noticed that I'm deliberately hiding something from him. He doesn't plan to leave." Qin Feiyong said secretly. "Then what should we do?" Fatso said. "Act according to the situation," Qin Feiyong secretly said. Then, he looked outside the door and said indifferently, "Come in." Da-da. Accompanied by a series of steady footsteps, two figures entered the main hall one after the other. It was the Imperial Preceptor and Yen Wei. The Imperial Preceptor looked angry. Yen Wei's eyes were also filled with a strong cold light. Qin Feiyong glanced at Yen Wei, then looked at the Imperial Preceptor and said with a smile, "I've been in seclusion recently. Something happened and I can't get up to greet the Imperial Preceptor. I hope the Imperial Preceptor can forgive me." "Something happened?" The Imperial Preceptor smiled coldly and said, "Why didn't I see anything wrong with you when you humiliated Zhuge Nanhua? Looks like I can't hide from the Imperial Preceptor. But why do you have to expose me, Imperial Preceptor? Don't you know that if you're too obvious it will affect the relationship between both parties?" Qin Feiyong said helplessly. "Do you still need to protect the relationship between you and me?" The Imperial Preceptor sneered. Qin Feiyong said calmly, "Since the Imperial Preceptor has said so, I won't stand on ceremony. If the Imperial Preceptor is here for Zhuge Nanhua, please leave." "What's with your attitude?" Yen Wei shouted. Qin Feiyong's eyes turned cold. He looked at Yen Wei and said, "Looks like the lesson I taught you last time wasn't enough. I was careless last time. Try me again if you dare." Yen Wei stared at him, unwilling to be outdone. Haha, Qin Feiyong laughed. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He said word by word, "Are you provoking me?" Yen Wei said, "Shut up." The Imperial Preceptor shouted, "Sir." Yen Wei wanted to say something, but the Imperial Preceptor's face darkened. He said, "I'll say it one last time. Without my order, don't say anything." "Yes." Yen Wei's eyes trembled. He replied respectfully and went silent. However, when he looked at Qin Feiyong, his eyes were even colder than before. The Imperial Preceptor raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyong. He said, I'm not here for Zhuge Nanhua. He knew. Since it had happened, it was useless to say anything more. The reason for that was because it was impossible for Qin Feiyang to apologize to him for this matter. Furthermore, it was impossible for him to compensate Zhuge Nanhua for his mental loss. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, as long as it's not for Zhuge Nanhua, everything can be discussed. Please have a seat. The Imperial Preceptor glanced at the seat beside him. A hint of anger flashed across his eyes. Ever since the day he became the Imperial Preceptor, other than when he was with the Emperor, he had always been the one sitting at the top, looking down on others. Just like the various Marshal Marquis mansion. As long as he went, the various Marshal Marquis would take the initiative to give up the main seat. And now, Qin Feiyang actually let him sit below. This was a complete humiliation to him. So, rather than suffer this humiliation, it was better to stand and talk. Qin Feiyang said, if Lord Imperial Preceptor doesn't sit, then you are looking down on me. Of course, he knew what the Imperial Preceptor was thinking. But he had the final say. Of course. He did this to deliberately suppress the Imperial Preceptor's arrogance and anger this damned old man. How would this old man dare to look down on you, Qin Feiyang? The Imperial Preceptor chuckled and walked to the seat that Lu Xingchen had just sat on. He sat on it and asked with a smile, are you satisfied now? Although he was beaming with joy, in fact he was about to go crazy in his heart. How could he not know Qin Feiyang's purpose? But now he could only endure. Look at what Lord Imperial Preceptor said. This junior is purely out of kindness. After all, Lord, you are already old. If you stand and talk, this junior can't bear it. Qin Feiyang laughed. The Imperial Preceptor clenched his hands tightly and said with a smile, then shouldn't this old man thank you? No need to thank me. This is what this junior should do. After all, this junior is also a person who respects the old and loves the young. And this junior has also been educating the people around me. When I meet a highly respected old man like Lord Imperial Preceptor, sorry, it slipped out of my mouth. Wait, it's not a slip of the tongue. You see, I'm so excited that I'm a little incoherent. Lord, please don't mind. What this junior wants to say is that when you meet a highly respected old man like you must be respectful. Qin Feiyang said. The Imperial Preceptor's old face was dark, and his veins were bulging. Especially when he heard the old man and Qin Feiyang's self-made excuse, he instantly felt uncomfortable. But there was no other way. He could only swallow his anger now. Whoosh! Taking a deep breath, the Imperial Preceptor loosened his fist and said, let's not talk nonsense. Let's get to the point. Okay. Please go ahead. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly. The Imperial Preceptor said in a deep voice, how can I remove Zhuge Mingyang's slave seal? And release Zhuge Shunfeng? Zhuge Shunfeng? Inside the spatial divine item. Lu Xingchen was slightly stunned when he heard the Imperial Preceptor's words. Qin Feiyang also raised his eyebrows. What he was worried about had happened. However, Lu Xingchen might not know who Zhuge Shunfeng was. After all, when the Tianyang Empire was destroyed and Mu Tianyang was suppressed, Zhuge Shunfeng and the Imperial Preceptor were still unknown. The Imperial Preceptor saw that Qin Feiyang was silent for a long time and said impatiently, tell me your conditions. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and transmitted his voice to Yen Wei. I asked you to investigate Immortal He. Have you investigated it? Yes, he is now hiding in the law enforcement hall. Yen Wei secretly said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He looked at the Imperial Preceptor and said, well, I won't dawdle. I have two conditions. First, hand over Immortal He. Second, I want Zhuge Mingyang's divine art and 3,000 incarnations. 3,000 incarnations. The Imperial Preceptor's eyes darkened and said angrily, young man, this old man advises you to quit while you are ahead. Don't ask for too much. Is this too much? I originally planned to exchange your life for it. Qin Feiyang said. The Imperial Preceptor's eyes were filled with murderous intent again. Lord Imperial Preceptor, as a fake god, you should know that no matter how strong the divine art is, it is just a worldly possession. Can it be compared to Zhuge Mingyang's life? Chapter 1345. The Imperial Tutor went silent, as if it was difficult to make a decision. Let's not talk about Zhuge Mingyang's talent. Let's talk about his comprehension. Before stepping into the war god realm, he was able to comprehend the profound meaning of the divine art, and raised the first and second style of the Azure Dragon secret art to the level of a divine art. May I ask, are you willing to let such a genius die young? Qin Feiyong said again. The imperial tutor's gaze trembled, and he said in a deep voice, even if this old man agrees, the divine art cannot be passed on. How can I give you the 3,000 incarnations? Don't fool me. Although I don't know much, I still know this. The divine art cannot be passed on because once it is passed on to others, you will lose it, so no one is willing to pass on the divine art to others. Qin Feiyong said. The divine art is not comparable to the battle art. The divine art, apart from the inheritance, is unique. It means that only one person can have it. Take the 3,000 incarnations for example. If today, Zhuge Mingyang gave him the 3,000 incarnations, then Zhuge Mingyang himself would lose the 3,000 incarnations. And it would be a complete loss, never to be found again. The same is true. After Qin Feiyong obtains the 3,000 incarnations, if he wants to pass it on to others, he will lose it forever. Therefore, to anyone, a deity art was irreplaceable. Qin Feiyong laughed. I am very sincere, so please don't play these little tricks, it's useless. The imperial tutor's face sank. In the end, he gritted his teeth and nodded. Okay, this old man promises you. I will use the 3,000 incarnations and immortal Shun in exchange for Zhuge Mingyang and Zhuge Shunfeng. Qin Feiyong said. Wait, don't get it wrong. I didn't say that I will also give you Zhuge Shunfeng. You, the imperial tutor, was furious. Lord, don't be angry, we also have a bargaining chip. Yin Wei said in a low voice. Yeah. The imperial preceptor was stunned, and his anger immediately subsided. He looked at Qin Feiyong with a smile and said, Boy, although the lives of Zhuge Mingyang and Zhuge Shunfeng are in your hands, I also have someone in my hands. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, Are you talking about Shen Mei? That's right. The state preceptor nodded. Haha, Qin Feiyong laughed loudly, his voice filled with mockery. What are you laughing at? The state preceptor raised his eyebrows. I'm laughing at your naivety. Yes, I admit that Shen Mei can indeed threaten me. But now why don't you go back and see if Shen Mei is still here? Qin Feiyong said. The state preceptor raised his eyebrows. What was the meaning of this? Could it be? His body trembled as he hurriedly looked at Yin Wei and shouted, Go back and take a look. Yes. Yin Wei nodded and immediately opened the portal and walked in. Qin Feiyong was not in a hurry. He took out a tea set, brewed a pot of tea and leisurely tasted it. Throughout the whole process, the state preceptor was paying attention to Qin Feiyong's expression. The more he looked, the more surprised he became. The current Qin Feiyong was too calm, and there was no trace of panic at all. Buzz. Half a cup of tea's time passed. The state preceptor took out an image crystal, and Yin Wei's image appeared. Yin Wei said anxiously, Lord, something bad has happened. Shen Mei is missing. What? The state preceptor's expression changed and he asked, Did you look for other places? Yin Wei nodded and said in a deep voice, This subordinate searched everywhere in the vicinity, but in the end, at this point, Yin Wei did not need to continue. The state preceptor already understood. He turned to look at Qin Feiyong and said, You can't be so fast. I only left for a while. Haven't you been obedient? Thousands of changes can happen in an instant. It means that many changes can happen in an instant. Qin Feiyong said indifferently. Impossible. Although I just left, I set up a divine power barrier around Shen Mei. With your ability you can't break it. Even if you can break it, you can't do it silently. The state preceptor shook his head in disbelief. Divine power barrier. Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled as he looked at Fatso. Fatso's eyes were also filled with disbelief. Set up a divine power barrier? Everyone knew. Once a divine power barrier was set up, the owner of the barrier would immediately sense anyone who touched it. But why did the state preceptor not notice when Lu Xingchen saved Shen Mei? It seemed that he had to find time to ask Lu Xingchen. Qin Feiyong temporarily put aside the doubts in his heart and said indifferently, Nothing is impossible for me, Qin Feiyong. Now let's talk again. Do you still have a bargaining chip? The state preceptor's heart sank. If you don't have any other bargaining chip, then there's no other way. You can only do as I say. Qin Feiyang laughed. Damn it. The state preceptor was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. He turned to look at Yan Wei and said, Bring Master Shen and Zhuge Mingyang to me. Yes. Yan Wei respectfully responded, and the virtual image quickly dissipated. The state preceptor put away the image crystal, looked up at Qin Feiyang and said, I have changed my mind now. I want to use 3,000 incarnations and Master Shen to exchange for Zhuge Shanfeng. Haha, Lord State Preceptor, are you kidding? You want to exchange Master Shen and Shenju for Zhuge Shanfeng? Qin Feiyang laughed. The State Preceptor's face was gloomy. He had already expected this result. Although Zhuge Mingyang's comprehension was really good, compared to a fake god like Zhuge Shanfeng, he was still a little worse. The State Preceptor asked, Then what do you want to let Zhuge Shanfeng go? Let me think about this. When I think of something I will tell you. Qin Feiyang laughed. Then you'd better not make me wait too long. Because you know me. When I lose my patience I won't even care about my own life, let alone Zhuge Shanfeng. The State Preceptor said sternly. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, I know. Don't worry, I won't make you wait too long. But now I am really curious. What kind of face is hiding under your skin? The State Preceptor's pupils contracted. It seemed that this little bastard already knew his true identity. Whoosh! Soon, Yan Wei, Zhuge Mingyang, and Master Shen appeared in the main hall out of thin air. And, when he saw Qin Feiyang, Zhuge Mingyang's eyes suddenly flashed with shocking killing intent. But Master Shen's face was full of horror. However, when he thought of the State Preceptor's background, he was full of confidence again. He looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered. I didn't expect that we would meet again after so long. Yes, I also didn't expect that you would rely on the State Preceptor again. Are you worthy of those people in the village? Qin Feiyang said. Haha, a wise man submits to circumstances. The State Preceptor is a dignified fake god. He is powerful and has a high position. If I don't rely on him, should I rely on you? Do you have this qualification? Master Shen laughed disdainfully. He didn't know that the State Preceptor had sold him out. He was showing off his power. The State Preceptor coldly glanced at Master Shen, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I have brought him here. You can deal with him as you wish. Deal with him? Zhuge Mingyang and Master Shen were stunned. What was the State Preceptor talking about? Who was he going to deal with? Suddenly, Zhuge Mingyang seemed to think of something and glanced at Master Shen. The people present, except for them, were only Qin Feiyang and Fatso. But he could imagine that it was certainly not Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Then only their side was left. Yan Wei was certainly not, after all, it was Yan Wei who brought them here. The State Preceptor was naturally even more impossible. So now, only he and Master Shen were left. Although he didn't know what was going on, Zhuge Mingyang believed that the person the State Preceptor was talking about was certainly not him. Then only Master Shen was left. In other words, the person who was going to be dealt with was Master Shen. Master Shen quickly realized this problem. He looked at the State Preceptor in panic and carefully asked, Your Excellency State Preceptor, who was the person you were going to deal with? You. The State Preceptor didn't hide anything and directly said, What? Master Shen's face turned pale and said in surprise, Why? Did I do something wrong? The State Preceptor was about to speak. Yan Wei disdainfully said, Your Excellency, he is just a dog. Why do you need to explain so much to him? You shut up. Master Shen suddenly became angry. He stared at Yan Wei and shouted, You are also a dog. What qualifications do you have to talk about me? I am different from you. I joined the State Preceptor and didn't betray anyone. But you betrayed all your people. Yan Wei sarcastically smiled, looked at the State Preceptor and said, Your Excellency, this person is a villain who only cares about profit. Now he can betray his people. He will certainly betray you in the future. So for this kind of person, don't have any sympathy. It makes sense. The State Preceptor nodded and indifferently glanced at Master Shen. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Hurry up, don't waste everyone's time. Master Shen's eyes trembled. He quickly knelt at the feet of the State Preceptor and begged, Your Excellency, I swear that I will always follow you in this life. If I betray you, may I be struck by lightning. Please don't give me to Qin Feiyang, okay? He knew. Once he fell into the hands of Qin Feiyang, there would be no way to survive. However, in the face of Master Shan's pleading, the state preceptor's face was indifferent. He didn't even look at him. Young Master Qin, Your Excellency Qin, I know I was wrong. Please spare my life. I will turn over a new leaf and make up for my previous mistakes. Seeing that the state preceptor was indifferent, Master Shan knew that there was no hope. He crawled in front of Qin Feiyang and knelt on the steps. Pitiful Qin Feiyang. Get lost. Qin Feiyang shouted and directly kicked Master Shan's chest. Bang bang bang. Master Shan immediately rolled down the steps like a rubber ball. His nose was bruised and his eyes were swollen. Qin Feiyang looked down at him contemptuously and said, Do you think I can't do anything to you if you follow the state preceptor? Ridiculous, no one in the world can protect the people that I, Qin Feiyang, want to kill. Yes, I was naive, I was confused, I thought I was smart, but now I really know I was wrong. I beg you, Your Excellency, please spare my dog life. I swear I will be by your side in the future. Like an ox or a horse, his life was at stake. How could Master Shan care about the pain? He quickly got up again and crawled to Qin Feiyang's feet, begging with tears and snot. I feel disgusted looking at people like you. You still want to stay by my side? Are you dreaming? Go find your clansmen and repent properly. Who knows, you might even be able to leave a complete corpse. Chapter 1346. Looking at the disappearance of Master Shan, the state preceptor's eyes couldn't help but surge with a monstrous fury, because he knew that Master Shan must have been sent to the ancient pagoda by Qin Feiyang. The ancient pagoda and everything in it originally belonged to him, but now it became Qin Feiyang's reliance to deal with him. How hateful! The state preceptor was so obvious that Qin Feiyang certainly knew what he was thinking at the moment. With a smile he said, Next, please hand over the 3,000 incarnations. What? Hand over the 3,000 incarnations? Zhuge Mingyang's expression changed. He turned to look at the state preceptor and said, What's going on? Give him the 3,000 incarnations. The state preceptor said expressionlessly, trying to control the anger in his heart. Ancestor, Zhuge Mingyang was very anxious. The 3,000 incarnations were his strongest means, and the only chance to compete with Qin Feiyang. Now he was asked to give the 3,000 incarnations to Qin Feiyang? He couldn't accept it. Once he lost the 3,000 incarnations, he would have no confidence to fight with Qin Feiyang in the future. The state preceptor suddenly turned to stare at Zhuge Mingyang and roared in exasperation. Do you think I want to give him the 3,000 incarnations? But this is the only condition for Qin Feiyang to lift the slave seal. If you don't want to lift the slave seal, you can refuse to hand over the 3,000 incarnations. Zhuge Mingyang's eyes trembled. It turned out that the 3,000 incarnations were used to exchange for lifting the slave seal. He closed his eyes in pain. He didn't expect that he, Zhuge Mingyang, would be reduced to such a situation. He was pressed to the ground without any resistance. The state preceptor sighed, Child, I know you are unwilling, but you have to remember that where there is life, there is hope. Where there is life, there is hope, Zhuge Mingyang murmured. Yes, only by staying alive would there be hope for revenge. He opened his eyes and looked at Imperial Advisor before he raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang. He laughed and said, It's just a divine art. What's the harm in giving it to you? Boom! His body shuddered as a golden seal flew out from the top of his head. It was emitting an obscure aura with an oppressive aura. The seal was rectangular in shape. It was about 2 fingers wide and 1 finger long. It was entirely pure gold and surrounded by divine light. There were 4 words attached to it. 3,000 clones. That was right. This was the divine talisman of the 3,000 incarnations. Qin Feiyang's eyes sparkled. Puff! As soon as the divine talisman appeared, Zhuge Mingyang spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. This meant that he had completely lost this divine art. Whoosh! Following closely, Zhuge Mingyang waved his hand, and the divine talisman turned into a waterfall and flew into Qin Feiyang's head. Immediately, a huge amount of information flowed into Qin Feiyang's mind. Lu Xingchen glared at him angrily, then turned and opened the portal to leave. Qin Feiyang also immediately took out the image crystal and sent a message to Wang Yangfeng. Buzz. Soon, Wang Yangfeng's shadow appeared. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang asked. See for yourself. Wang Yangfeng smiled helplessly. The image crystal changed, and Lei Bao immediately entered Qin Feiyang's line of sight. At this moment, Lei Bao was blocking the door of Qianwu Marquis. Moreover, it was holding a wine jar the size of a washbasin in its arms. As it drank, it cursed at the people inside. Marquis Qianwu was standing in front of the door, his face extremely ugly. As for Wang Yishan and the rest, they were squatting beside Lei Bao, trying their best to persuade him. But Lei Bao was already drunk to the point of being a complete mess, and couldn't listen at all. Lei Bao gulped down a few mouthfuls, looked at Marquis Qianwu provocatively and said, Surnamed Feng, you are a martial marquis, why are you so timid? You're just like a turtle, hurry up, don't waste my time. Come and fight with me for 300 rounds. Bastard! Marquis Qianwu was unable to restrain his anger. He raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang's shadow and roared, Aren't you going to control it, and let it continue to mess around like this? Boss Qin? Lei Bao also noticed Qin Feiyang burped and laughed. Boss Qin, Fatso told this emperor that this guy surnamed Feng is not a good person. As long as you say the word, this emperor will immediately flatten this turtle's lair. Son of a bitch. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. This fellow was the first person who dared to call a marquis a son of a bitch in public. Seal anxiously transmitted to him from the side. Big brother, stop messing around, Boss Qin will be angry. Lei Bao said unhappily. This emperor is helping Boss Qin fight for justice. What is he angry about? He should be thanking this emperor. Seal was helpless. This thing wine was really harmful. Lei Bao's body swayed. He stood up and looked at Marquis Qianwu and said, Damn old man, do you dare to accept the challenge? If you don't dare, then hurry up and admit that you're a son of a bitch. Preposterous, preposterous. I must report this matter to His Majesty. Marquis Qianwu was so angry that his face turned black, and his body trembled. It's useless even if you report it to old Prince Tian. Lei Bao laughed disdainfully, his terrifying might exploding out as he pounced towards Marquis Qianwu. Boom! The gate of the Marquis's mansion instantly collapsed. Marquis Qianwu, as well as the guards beside him, were in a complete mess, and a large number of them fell down. Such a big Marquis's mansion. Actually, no one dares to accept the challenge. This emperor is really disappointed. It's not fun, it's not fun. This emperor will go to the Zhuge family. Lei Bao shook his head, swayed his body, and soared into the sky. What? He still wants to go to the Zhuge family. Wang Yangfeng and the rest had a change of expression. Marquis Qianwu was also tongue-tied. The 100 marquis families that had been passed down had almost all declined, and were not as good as before, except for the Zhuge family. Although the Zhuge family, compared to its peak, had declined quite a bit, but currently, it was recognized as the strongest marquis mansion. Among them there were super experts like Zhuge Nanhua. Was this Lei Bao really not afraid of death? But thinking about it carefully, it even dared to cause trouble in the imperial palace, so it didn't seem to be a big deal to cause trouble in the Zhuge family. Wang Yangfeng looked at Lei Bao, who was staggering and on the verge of collapse, and frowned. Young master, what do we do now? Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered and said, Let it go. What? Wang Yangfeng was stunned. What did this mean? Previously he had asked them to stop Lei Bao, but now he was supporting Lei Bao? I might reach the Zhuge family before you all hurry back. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, the faint image quickly disappeared. Wang Yangfeng kept the image crystal and looked at Wang Yishan and the rest helplessly, and could only follow behind Lei Bao and fly back to the Zhuge family. In the main hall, Fatso looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion and asked, Boss, what do you mean? Are you going to start a war? It's still too early to start a war. I just want to use Lei Bao to test the Zhuge family's strength. Qin Feiyang said. I see. Fatso was enlightened. Go to the ancient pagoda and continue to help Lu Hong build the herb field. Qin Feiyang said and sent Fatso to the ancient pagoda. Then, he opened the portal and directly descended on the Zhuge family. Qin Feiyang. The guards of the Zhuge family immediately saw Qin Feiyang, and all soared into the sky. There were more than 100 of them. They surrounded Qin Feiyang in the center, fully focused and vigilant, as if they were facing a great enemy. At the same time, there were also people who immediately informed Zhuge Wuhou. Qin Feiyang glanced at the guards around him, with his hands behind his back. He quietly looked at the house of Marquis below, his face expressionless. Qin Feiyang, what are you doing in my Wuhou manor? Suddenly. Chapter 1347. This person was 8 feet tall and burly like a small giant. There was a shocking scar on the left side of his face, exuding a valiant aura. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and looked away. Bastard! Do you know who I am? Do you know where this place is? Get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame the Zhuge family for being rude to you. Facing Qin Feiyang's disregard, the burly man was furious and shouted, "Noisy!" Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the burly man with ruthless coldness. The burly man shrank his neck and a sense of panic emerged in his heart. How dare you offend Boss Qin? You must be tired of living. At this moment, accompanied by a playful laughter, a bolt of lightning broke through the air and pounced directly at the burly man. The burly man turned pale and quickly counterattacked. But before he could do anything, he was drowned by the lightning. Blood splattered on the spot and screams resounded through the sky. Anyone who dares to offend Boss Qin must die. The lightning dissipated and Lei Bao's figure appeared. Why is this bastard here too? Seeing the appearance of Lei Bao, the guards were instantly terrified. Who in the imperial city didn't know Lei Bao's name? It was a bastard. Whoever provoked it, no matter who it was, would not have a good ending. This seal Wang Yangfeng and the rest also broke through the air. Seeing Lei Bao killing people as soon as he arrived at the Zhuge family, their expressions changed drastically. Young master, let's stop it immediately. Wang Yangfeng said. No need. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The group of people was stunned. What did he mean? Did he tacitly allow Lei Bao to kill people in the Zhuge family? However, they didn't ask too much. They landed next to Qin Feiyang and went on full alert. After all, they were in the Zhuge family now. It was better to be careful. Looking at Lei Bao again. After killing the burly man, it grinned at Qin Feiyang and then looked at the surrounding guards. Its fierce eyes were hazy with drunkenness. Run! No one knew which guard shouted in horror. Immediately, all the guards turned around and fled. Useless thing. But at this moment, a hoarse voice sounded. Although his voice was hoarse, it was full of energy. Following closely, a violet-clothed old man flashed out from the Marquis estate. He was about 1.8 meters tall. Although he was old, his body was very robust. Especially his eyes, which were not turbid at all. They were sharp, spirited, and sparkling. The moment the old man appeared, the guards immediately stopped in their tracks, their faces filled with shame. Wang Yangfeng's eyes narrowed as he sent a voice transmission. Young master, who is he? Qin Feiyang said. He is the current Zhuge Wuhou. From your tone, you seem to be afraid of him? I have no choice but to be afraid because he is a 9-star combat emperor. Moreover, judging from his aura, it seems that he is about to step into the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. Wang Yangfeng thought to himself, I didn't expect that old man to have hidden himself so deeply. Qin Feiyang grumbled. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he shouted, Lei Bao, kill him. What? The expressions of Wang Yangfeng and the others changed. They never would have thought that Qin Feiyang would actually give such an order to Lei Bao. Could it be that they were going to start a war head-on? Kill this marquis? Zhuge Wuhou was also stunned. The people of the Zhuge family below were also dumbstruck. At the same time, there were also many people who came to watch the show. When they heard Qin Feiyang's words, they were petrified on the spot. Was this guy crazy? He actually dared to threaten to kill Zhuge Wuhou? Lei Bao was also astonished, seriously suspecting that there was something wrong with his ears. Didn't you hear me? I told you to kill him. Qin Feiyang shouted. Lei Bao immediately quivered, and his drunken head instantly sobered up. It turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked, Are you sure? Qin Feiyang nodded. Haha, I can finally start a massacre. Old bastard, die. Lei Bao laughed wildly, bringing along a monstrous might. He pounced towards Zhuge Wuhou. Qin Feiyang, don't go too far. Zhuge Wuhou was furious. Not long ago, he had humiliated Zhuge Nanhua in public, and now he was brazenly killing his way into his house. Was he bullying his Zhuge family? Boom! He took a step forward, and the emperor's might roared in all directions as he threw a punch at Lei Bao. You overestimate yourself. Lei Bao smiled contemptuously, stood up like a human, and slapped out with his claws. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by a loud sound, Zhuge Wuhou's arm broke on the spot, and blood stained the sky. Then, like a meteorite, he flew out horizontally. The terrifying shockwaves of the battle rolled towards the Zhuge family below. The group of guards from before were the first to bear the brunt of it. Their bodies directly exploded in the air, and blood poured down like a waterfall. Below, the entire Zhuge family's buildings were trembling crazily at this moment, facing the danger of collapse. At this moment, everyone in the Zhuge family fell into a state of panic. Not good. Zhuge Wuhou's expression changed. Previously, he was so angry that he didn't care about the people below. Although the battle between the 9-star war emperor was not as good as the false god, it was still enough to flatten his Zhuge family. He quickly stabilized his body and pounced downwards. Old bastard, where do you want to go? However, Lei Bao was like a ghost, and instantly appeared in front of Zhuge Wuhou. The power of thunder roared out, drowning the sky. Zhuge Wuhou looked at the Feng Marquis' mansion below him, and decisively soared into the sky, and roared, Elders, please quickly come out of seclusion and protect the Marquis' mansion. He actually wants to use Zhuge Wuhou's divine art to destroy the Zhuge family. If its evil plan succeeds, Zhuge Wuhou will probably go crazy with anger. Wang Yongfeng and the others suddenly understood, and there was a trace of a smile in their eyes. Damn it! Zhuge Wuhou also realized Lei Bao's goal, cursed angrily, and quickly dispersed the black moon. But now it seemed that it was too late. Don't! Zhuge Wuhou roared in despair. Qin Feiyang, you have completely angered this old man. All of a sudden, an angry roar exploded, and the imperial tutor appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and he sent a sound transmission. Lei Bao, come back quickly. Hearing this, Lei Bao glanced at the imperial tutor, then immediately turned around and rushed towards Qin Feiyang. What a joke! With the imperial tutor personally here, if he didn't escape quickly, he would definitely lose his life. Just as Lei Bao was escaping, the imperial tutor raised his old hand and waved it lightly. A wave of supreme power appeared and the black moon instantly disintegrated. Following that, he raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. Boom! A monstrous divine might appeared. Like a huge wave, it covered the sky and covered the earth as it rushed towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Qin Feiyang did not panic at all. His hands were still behind his back, and he said indifferently, Are you sure you want to make a move against me? The threat was not concealed at all. The imperial tutor's body stiffened, and he instinctively retracted his divine might. But then, killing intent shot out from his old eyes as he sneered. This old man's patience has reached its limit. Don't try to threaten me anymore. The divine might appeared once again, drowning out the sky as it pounced towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Qin Feiyang obviously knew that the imperial tutor would not give up so easily this time. What he said just now was not to threaten the imperial tutor, but to buy time for Lei Bao. At this moment, Lei Bao had already rushed in front of him. Qin Feiyang moved his mind and Lei Bao, Seal, Wang Yongfeng, and the others instantly disappeared without a trace. Obviously, they were all sent to the castle. Try to kill me if you can. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and was about to enter the castle. Something bad has happened, you two stop. But at this moment, the commander of the Kirin army and the head eunuch both flew over, their faces full of anxiety. Qin Feiyang and the imperial tutor raised their eyebrows at the same time and turned to look at the two. The commander of the Kirin army and the head eunuch panted as they flew in front of Qin Feiyang. The head eunuch immediately looked at the imperial tutor and said, Imperial tutor, come over quickly. I have something to talk to the commander of the Kirin army. The imperial tutor frowned more and more. It's urgent, hurry. Chapter 1348. What's so urgent? Qin Feiyang frowned. The Grand Master glanced at the chief eunuch and the commander of the Kirin army, withdrew his divine power, and walked to the three of them. The chief eunuch glanced at the crowd and said, "This is a serious matter. When you hear it later, please try not to react too much to avoid causing panic." "Say it," the Grand Master said impatiently. The chief eunuch said, "His Majesty was assassinated." "What?" The Grand Master was shocked. Qin Feiyang's face also changed. How could this be? The emperor lived in the imperial palace. How could he be assassinated? The Grand Master grabbed the chief eunuch's clothes and shouted, "Tell me what happened?" "Grand Master, please calm down." The commander of the Kirin army hurriedly grabbed the Grand Master's arm and said. The Grand Master said sternly, "How can I calm down after such a thing happened? It's because this matter is too important that you have to calm down. Think about it, if the world knew that His Majesty was assassinated, how big of a storm would it cause?" The commander of the Kirin army said in a deep voice. The Grand Master glanced at the commander of the Kirin army, let go of the chief eunuch and said, "Where was he assassinated?" "The Imperial Study Room." The chief eunuch. The Grand Master immediately opened a portal and strode in. The chief eunuch followed closely behind him. "You come with me too," the commander of the Kirin army said to Qin Feiyang and followed him into the portal. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered, but in the end he followed. What's going on? Look at how anxious they are. Could it be that something big has happened in the Imperial Palace? The crowd below was surprised. The Imperial Study Room. At this moment, the security here was no different from usual. The door was closed. Two eunuchs and a maid stood outside respectfully. It seemed that they didn't know that the emperor was assassinated. Inside the room, Qin Feiyang and the other three appeared one after another. A strong smell of blood immediately assailed their nostrils. The four of them quickly scanned their surroundings, only to see that there was no one in the huge imperial study except for the rows of bookshelves and desks. But there was blood everywhere on the ground, and it was fresh blood. Seeing this, the Grand Master's face darkened. He turned to the two commanders of the Kirin army and asked, "Where is His Majesty? Even if he was killed, his corpse should still be here." "There are no bodies." The chief eunuch shook his head. "How is this possible?" The imperial advisor was furious. "There's really no corpse." The main eunuch conduit. "Aren't you always by His Majesty's side? What's going on?" The imperial tutor lowered his voice and asked, "Yesterday morning, Your Majesty said that you wanted to come to the imperial study to read, so I accompanied Your Majesty to the imperial study. But before entering the imperial study, His Majesty asked me to wait outside. Your Majesty's orders, I naturally do not dare to disobey. I can only stand guard outside." This defense lasted for an entire day and night. The main eunuch conduit. The imperial advisor said angrily, "Didn't you find it strange after reading for an entire day and night?" The main eunuch conduit said, "There's nothing strange about it. His Majesty usually reads for a long time when he's reading. It's normal for him to read for several days and nights." "Then how did you find out that Your Majesty was killed?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Because of you. Not long ago, the commander of the Kirin army received the news that you brought people to the Zhuge family. He knew that you might cause trouble again, so he immediately came to report to His Majesty. But no matter how we shouted, His Majesty did not respond. At first we did not think much of it. After all, this is the imperial study. No one would dare to commit a crime here. We just thought that His Majesty was too engrossed in reading or was tired and fell asleep in the imperial study. But when I pushed open the door and entered the imperial study, I was scared out of my wits when I saw the blood all over the floor. I immediately realized that something big might have happened. I quickly called the commander of the Kirin army in and closed the door." The main eunuch said. The commander of the Kirin army said, "When I came in and saw this scene, I was also scared out of my wits. I quickly searched for him with the main eunuch. But in the end there was not even a shadow of a ghost, let alone His Majesty. So we immediately went to find you." "Impossible. His Majesty is a 9-star combat emperor. Even if someone committed a crime, it would be impossible to do it silently." The imperial advisor shook his head. His old face was full of disbelief. Qin Feiyang glanced at him. He squatted on the ground and reached out to touch a bit of blood. He looked at it carefully and put it to the tip of his nose to smell it. He frowned slightly. Did you find something? The commander of the Kirin army asked. Qin Feiyong said, from the analysis of this blood, the emperor was killed no more than 2 hours ago. The imperial advisor heard this and turned to the main eunuch. He said, you were outside at that time. Didn't you hear anything? No. The main eunuch shook his head. Ridiculous. With His Majesty's strength, no one except a false god like me could kill him without anyone noticing. Tell me honestly, did you collude with others to assassinate His Majesty? The imperial advisor stared at the eunuch. His eyes were shining. I assassinated His Majesty? The main eunuch was stunned. He quickly knelt on the ground and said, Imperial advisor, this is a serious crime. I don't have the guts to do this. Please investigate. Don't worry. I will find out. The imperial advisor smiled coldly. He turned to look at the door and shouted, You four, come in immediately. The 2 eunuchs and the maid quickly ran in. When they saw the blood on the ground, they were shocked. They knelt on the ground and said, Greetings, imperial advisor. The imperial advisor said in a deep voice, I ask you, after His Majesty entered the imperial study, did you hear anything? No. The 4 quickly shook their heads. Really? If I find out that you are lying, do you know the consequences? The imperial advisor said sternly. I don't dare. We really didn't hear anything. The 4 of them hurriedly said in fear. The imperial advisor looked at the 4 with murderous eyes. At the same time, Qin Feiyong looked at the imperial advisor, then looked at the 2 eunuchs and the 2 maids. His eyes flashed and said, I have a way to know if they are lying. What way? The imperial advisor frowned and looked at him. Slave seal. Qin Feiyong waved his hands. 4 slave seals appeared in an instant and disappeared into the top of the 4 people's heads like lightning. The 4 immediately held their heads and screamed. But soon, the pain disappeared. Qin Feiyong said, Let me ask you, after the emperor entered the imperial study, did the eunuch leave? Or enter the imperial study? No. The eunuch has been guarding outside until the commander of the Kirin army came. He then entered the imperial study. The 4 said. After listening, Qin Feiyong looked at the imperial advisor and said, They are not lying. How can you be so sure? The imperial advisor sneered. Of course. Because of the slave seal, I can peek into the other person's mind so I know what they are thinking at the moment. Qin Feiyong said. These 4 people are just ordinary people. Naturally, their minds are not as good as the Zhuge family and the Mu family. So when he asked, the 4 people's minds came up with the truest thoughts. The imperial advisor's pupils shrank. Suddenly, the imperial advisor waved his hand and the power of the pseudo-god emerged and rushed toward the 2 eunuchs and the 2 maids. Before the 4 people could react, blood splashed on the spot. Seeing this, the eunuch's eyes were full of fear. The commander of the Kirin army was also afraid. Qin Feiyong was not afraid at all. He raised his eyebrows and said, Why did you kill them? They are not fools. When they saw the blood here, they must have thought that His Majesty had an accident. If they spread the news, wouldn't the empire be in chaos? The imperial advisor said indifferently. As long as the imperial advisor says a word, do you think they will dare to talk nonsense? Qin Feiyong sneered. What do you mean? Did I kill the wrong people? Or are you saying that you want to meddle in the affairs of a few ants that this nation teacher is killing? Qin Feiyong, I suddenly realized that this matter should have something to do with you. The imperial advisor said with a sinister smile. Qin Feiyong immediately frowned. The imperial advisor said with a sinister smile. His Majesty was fine when you didn't come out. But as soon as you came out, His Majesty was killed. Is this a coincidence? Huh. The eunuch's head and the commander of the Kirin army also looked at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong looked at the 2 and sneered at the imperial advisor. You want to frame me? Is this a trap? It is clearly the truth. Because in the entire Great Qin Empire, other than me, only you have the ability to kill His Majesty silently. The imperial advisor said with murderous intent in his eyes. Then tell me, what kind of ability do I have? Qin Feiyong said. The ancient castle. You could have used the castle to sneak into the royal study without anyone noticing. Then you could have caught the emperor off guard and brought him into the castle. Then you could have gotten your subordinates to kill him, the imperial advisor said. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Qin Feiyong said calmly. You want to condemn someone? The imperial advisor sneered. Who in the empire doesn't know that you hate His Majesty to the core because of what happened back then? Qin Feiyong said. Even if I have the motive, I don't have the time to do it. Because I went to look for Zhuge Nanhua as soon as I came out of seclusion. This is only your side of the story. Who knows if you went to look for His Majesty before you went to look for Zhuge Nanhua? Besides, even if you didn't go, aren't you an accomplice? The imperial advisor said. Which accomplice? Qin Feiyong said. That fake god who secretly attacked me in the first district. Don't tell me that you have already forgotten. The imperial advisor sneered. It seems like you are certain that I killed His Majesty. Qin Feiyong said. Who else could it be other than you? Stop quibbling. Tell me, where is His Majesty now? Is he dead or not? The imperial advisor shouted. The chief eunuch and the commander of the Kirin army also gradually moved closer to the imperial advisor. Obviously, they also suspected Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong looked at the two commanders of the Kirin army and said, Don't tell me you really believe it. What the imperial advisor said is not without reason. The chief eunuch said in a deep voice. Chapter 1349. Ignorance is terrible. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. He looked at the state preceptor and said, I have a motive to kill, and so do you. I have the ability, and so do you. Since you suspect me, I have a reason to suspect you. You are a thief pretending to be a thief. The state preceptor said angrily. Qin Feiyong said, Can I say that you are also a thief pretending to be a thief? Don't talk nonsense. The state preceptor shouted. His eyes were full of killing intent. Qin Feiyong's gaze turned cold as he shouted, You better put away your killing intent right now. The state preceptor said, I advise you not to challenge my patience. That's what I should say. If you don't want those shameful things to be exposed, you better behave yourself. Don't bite people like a mad dog. Qin Feiyong said. You, the state preceptor was furious. What about me? Qin Feiyong looked at him provocatively. You win. The state preceptor said coldly. He turned to the chief eunuch and asked, Where is the imperial seal? The imperial seal? The chief eunuch was stunned. He looked at the desk next to him. On the desk there were pens, ink, paper and a stack of memorials. On one side there was a square jade box. It was the size of two adults' palms. It was carved with dragons and phoenixes. It was very delicate. This was the desk where the emperor usually read memorials. The head eunuch quickly walked to the desk and reached out to grab the jade box. At this moment, the state preceptor and Qin Feiyong rushed to the jade box at the same time. However, the imperial preceptor's speed was still faster than the imperial preceptor, and he managed to grab the jade box first. The sudden change of events caused the chief eunuch and the commander of the Qilin army to be at a loss for a moment. At the same time, seeing the jade box in the state preceptor's hand, Qin Feiyong's face darkened. He said, We don't know whether the emperor is dead or not. Are you so eager to get the imperial seal? What nonsense are you talking about? This imperial preceptor is protecting the imperial jade seal to prevent it from falling into the hands of those with ill intentions. The imperial tutor sneered. Are you talking about yourself? Qin Feiyong took the opportunity to step forward and grab the jade box. What are you doing? The imperial advisor said angrily. The two of them each grabbed onto one side and refused to let go. Qin Feiyong said, Other than my Qin clan, I will not allow the imperial jade seal to fall into the hands of anyone else, especially you. Then we'll have to rely on our own abilities. The imperial preceptor's eyes flashed with murderous intent. A surge of divine might suddenly emerged and pounced on Qin Feiyong. Puff! Qin Feiyong spat out a mouthful of blood and was forced to retreat. The imperial preceptor took the jade box as though it was a treasure. He took a few steps back and opened the jade box impatiently. Damn it! Qin Feiyong was furious. He was burning with anxiety. But, the moment the imperial tutor opened the jade box, His entire body froze. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Shouldn't this old man be happy to have obtained the Imperial Jade Seal? He walked up suspiciously and looked at the jade box. His expression froze. Haha, immediately after. He raised his head and laughed. His laughter was filled with sarcasm. The jade box was actually empty. The Imperial Jade Seal was not in it at all. How could this be? His Majesty has always placed the Imperial Jade Seal in here. How could it not be here? The head eunuch stepped forward to take a look. His expression changed. Could it have been taken away by the culprit? The commander of the Kirin army was shocked. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the Imperial Preceptor raised their heads at the same time and looked at each other. The Imperial Preceptor roared, "Hand over the Imperial Jade Seal immediately." Qin Feiyang said to himself, "You're the one who should hand over the Imperial Jade Seal." The Imperial Preceptor raised his eyebrows and stared at Qin Feiyang. He said to himself, "You really didn't kill His Majesty? Nonsense, if I killed him, would I fight with you for the Imperial Jade Seal?" Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. The Imperial Preceptor's heart sank. He said, "If it's not you and it's not me, then who could it be?" Qin Feiyang also fell silent. All along, the Imperial Preceptor had been suspecting him, and he had also been suspecting the Imperial Preceptor. But from the Imperial Preceptor's current behavior, it seemed that it really had nothing to do with him. However, as the Imperial Preceptor said, besides the two of them, who else had this ability? Wait, he seemed to have overlooked someone. This person was Lu Xingchen. Lu Xingchen had this ability and the motive to kill. He was undoubtedly the most suspicious. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang immediately opened a portal and walked in without looking back. "Where are you going?" the commander of the Kirin army quickly asked. "To find the real culprit," Qin Feiyang said. Before his voice died away, Qin Feiyang disappeared into the portal. The commander of the Kirin army looked at the Imperial Preceptor again. He was at a loss and asked, "Imperial Preceptor, what should we do now?" "Don't panic. I'll return to the temple immediately and send people from the law enforcement hall to search. Even if His Majesty is really killed, we must find his body. And you two are in charge of this. Remember, don't leak any information," the Imperial Preceptor said. "But how long can we hide such a big thing?" The chief eunuch said anxiously, "Hide it as long as we can. If anyone comes to ask, just say that His Majesty is ill and will not see anyone for the time being." After the Imperial Preceptor finished speaking, he opened a portal and left. "How could this happen? Your Majesty, nothing must happen to you," the chief eunuch exclaimed. The commander of the Kirin army also looked worried. Bright Heaven Palace. Qin Feiyang sat on the throne above, holding an image crystal in his hand, his face gloomy. He never expected that such a thing would happen suddenly. Buzz. After a while, Lu Xingchen's shadow appeared. Qin Feiyang said, "Tell me, do you have anything to do with the Emperor's death?" "What? The Emperor was killed?" Lu Xingchen was stunned and said in surprise. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Xingchen looked at Qin Feiyang and saw that Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy. He didn't seem to be joking. "Wait, I'll come to you." After saying that, he turned off the image crystal. In less than 3 breaths, Lu Xingchen appeared in the hall. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, "When did this happen? Why didn't I receive any news?" "Not long ago," Qin Feiyang responded and said. "Do you really not know? Or are you playing dumb? If I did it, do you think I would deny it?" Lu Xingchen said. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Seemed to make sense. With Lu Xingchen's character, if he dared to do it, he would definitely dare to admit it. Could it be the state preceptor? Lu Xingchen asked. Judging from his previous performance, it shouldn't be him, but we can't rule out the possibility that he is acting. And the Imperial Jade Seal is also missing, Qin Feiyang said. Lu Xingchen said in astonishment, "If it's not the state preceptor, it's not me, and it's not you, could it be a ghost? I'm not in the mood to joke now. Call Mu Qing out immediately and let him see with his all-seeing eyes," Qin Feiyang said. Lu Xingchen was puzzled and said, "The Emperor's death should be a good thing for you. Why are you so anxious?" I'm anxious about the Imperial Jade Seal. Now that the Emperor is dead, if the State Preceptor gets the Imperial Jade Seal, then he can rightfully inherit the throne. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. The reason why the State Preceptor didn't make a move was that the Emperor was still alive, and the Imperial Jade Seal. Because without the Imperial Jade Seal, he couldn't be recognized by the world. Of course, the recognition of the world wasn't that important, because with the State Preceptor's means, he had 10,000 ways to deceive the world. What really scared the State Preceptor was actually the old monsters hidden in the mountain behind the Imperial Palace. Those old monsters, including the fake gods who sealed themselves and Elder Qin, were the guardians of the Great Qin Empire. And since ancient times, the succession of the throne was personally drawn up by the previous emperor, announced to the world, and then held a succession ceremony. At the ceremony, the Imperial Jade Seal was personally handed to the successor. But now, the emperor was dead, and no one could draw up this edict. In this way, the old monsters behind the Imperial Palace only recognized the Imperial Jade Seal. So, now it was urgent to find the Imperial Jade Seal. Lu Xingchen was silent for a while and asked, "Who knows about this matter at present?" Qin Feiyang said, "You, the State Preceptor, the commander of the Kirin army, the head of the eunuchs. Actually, I think you're a little worried. The State Preceptor doesn't have the blood of the Qin clan in his body. Even if he finds the Imperial Jade Seal, the monsters behind the Imperial Palace won't agree to let him inherit the throne." Lu Xingchen said with a faint smile. "Who is the State Preceptor? As long as he gets the Imperial Jade Seal, he has many ways to persuade those old monsters. Moreover, don't forget that there's a little prince now. The emperor only has one heir. If the State Preceptor can't persuade those old monsters, then the little prince will definitely be promoted to the throne. At that time, the State Preceptor and the current empress will join forces, and the empire of the Great Qin will belong to the Zhuge family sooner or later," Qin Feiyang said. "That makes sense. The little prince is young and ignorant now, and they can do whatever they want behind the scenes. But there's still you, isn't there? You, the descendant of the Qin emperor, have the best chance to inherit the throne. Don't you think?" Lu Xingchen said with a smile. "When the emperor expelled me from the Imperial Palace, he announced it to the world. Do you think those old monsters will agree to let me inherit the throne? Moreover, the State Preceptor will definitely make things difficult," Qin Feiyang said. "That's true. However, the emperor was killed and the Imperial Jade Seal is missing. This is a great thing for me. Why should I help you?" Lu Xingchen joked. "I didn't ask you to help me. I just want Mu Qing to see if the emperor is still alive," Qin Feiyang said. "Let me think about it." Lu Xingchen walked to a chair on the side, sat down and lowered his head to think. After a while, he looked up at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "If you just want to see if the emperor is still alive, I can help you." After that, Mu Qing appeared beside him out of thin air. Lu Xingchen said, "Use your heavenly eye to check the whereabouts of the emperor." "Yes." Mu Qing responded respectfully, and then coldly glanced at Qin Feiyang, and opened his heavenly eye. His eyes were immediately suffused with wisps of obscure light. Gradually, within his pupils, a mountain range that stretched as far as the eye could see could be vaguely seen. But to go to the 9 prefectures, he had to go through the transmission altar of the Spirit Pagoda. If the murderer wanted to take the emperor to the 9 prefectures, it was impossible to do it quietly. Lu Xingchen said with a smile, "Mu Qing, I've told you what you saw. Don't forget your promise to me. What do you want me to do for you?" Qin Feiyang collected his thoughts and asked. "I can't tell you now. When the time comes, I'll tell you. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first." Lu Xingchen stood up and said. Qin Feiyang looked at him deeply and waved his hand. "See you." Lu Xingchen immediately opened a portal and walked in with Mu Qing. Qin Feiyang looked at the dissipating portal and leaned weakly on the chair, rubbing his head. What was going on? How could a dignified emperor be assassinated? This was the first time since the founding of the Great Qin Empire. In a certain alchemy room, Lu Xingchen and Mu Qing appeared out of thin air. Lu Xingchen immediately turned around and looked at Mu Qing, asking, "Where is the emperor now?" "Spiritual state." Mu Qing said. Senior Qin is in charge of the spiritual state. How did the person who kidnapped him get there? Could it be that this matter has something to do with Senior Qin? Or is Senior Qin the culprit? Lu Xingchen frowned. I'm also puzzled. In short, I feel that the assassination of the emperor is somewhat confusing. Mu Qing said. Let's not worry about that for now. The emperor has been kidnapped. For us, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Lu Xingchen's eyes sparkled. Master, what do you mean? Mu Qing was suspicious. Save the emperor before Qin Feiyang and the state preceptor and then control the emperor. In this way, the emperor will be our puppet, which will be of great help to our future plans. Lu Xingchen said. Master, although this idea is good, there are two problems now. Mu Qing frowned. What problem? Lu Xingchen was suspicious. First, although I saw the emperor in the spiritual state, I can't spy on his exact location. It's not easy to find him. Second, the person who kidnapped the emperor must have reached the level of a fake god or even stronger. If this is the case, then it will be difficult for us to snatch the emperor from him. Mu Qing said worriedly. It doesn't matter if we can't snatch him. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. When we find out his identity, I can choose to cooperate with him. As for whether it's easy to find him, don't worry about that. As long as the emperor is in the spiritual state, he can't escape our pursuit. After all, the spiritual state is only so big. Lu Xingchen's face was full of confidence. Mu Qing's eyes lit up as he cupped his hands and said, Master, you are wise. I will do it right away. Lu Xingchen waved his hand and smiled. Can you pass the pagoda? I'll go there myself. After saying that, Lu Xingchen took Mu Qing into the space divine item, and then drove the space divine item to the back mountain of the imperial palace without stopping. Back to Qin Feiyang. He leaned on the throne and pondered for a long time before taking out the image crystal. Buzz. Soon, Yin Wei's shadow appeared. Qin Feiyang asked, Is there any movement from the state preceptor's side? Yin Wei said. He has sent all the law enforcers of the inner court to find the emperor. Now, he is discussing countermeasures with the empress and Zhuge Wuhou. What countermeasures? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. If the emperor is really killed, before it is decided who will inherit the emperor's prestige, someone must stand up and take charge of the situation. So the three of them are discussing how to persuade the old monsters in the back mountain of the imperial palace, because the state preceptor wants to take charge of the state affairs. Yin Wei said in a deep voice, Take charge of the state affairs. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. This old thing was really good at scheming. Although it was only taking charge of the state affairs, if the state preceptor really persuaded the old monsters in the back mountain of the imperial palace, then during the period of taking charge of the state affairs, he could use the power in his hands to make a big fuss. Qin Feiyang said, Pay attention carefully. If there is any news, inform me immediately. Okay. Yin Wei nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, By the way, how is the little prince now? He doesn't know anything at the moment. Yin Wei said. He is still young. It's good that he doesn't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Although he hated the emperor, the little prince liked the emperor very much. If he knew that the emperor was killed, he would definitely be very sad. Okay, be careful. Staying with the state preceptor is not a child's play. If you are not careful, you will lose your life. Qin Feiyang said. I understand. Yin Wei said. By the way, there is one more thing that I forgot to tell you. I have rescued your clansmen. They are now in the ancient tower. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Really? Yin Wei was stunned and asked in surprise. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's great. Now I can be completely at ease. Yin Wei was overjoyed. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned off the image crystal. Looking at the void in front of him, he murmured, The 9 provinces. Just as he got up, the image crystal in his hand moved. Qin Feiyang frowned. The image crystal was activated. The shadow of the commander of the Kirin army appeared. What? Qin Feiyang looked at him expressionlessly. The commander of the Kirin army asked, You really didn't assassinate His Majesty? You have disappointed me. We have known each other for so long. Don't you know me? Even if I wanted to kill the emperor, I would challenge him openly. Why would I use such petty means? Qin Feiyang snorted. All right, I have wronged you. The commander of the Kirin army said apologetically. Is there anything else? Qin Feiyang asked. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with this person. Plop. The commander of the Kirin army suddenly knelt on the ground. What are you doing? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Now that we don't know whether the emperor is dead or alive, I am worried that some people may take advantage of the situation to create chaos. So I hope that you can stand out and stop them at the critical moment. The commander of the Kirin army said. I know that even if you don't say it. After saying that, Qin Feiyang turned off the image crystal, opened the portal and arrived in front of the pagoda. Zhuge Nanhua was humiliated in public and had a mental breakdown. His emotions were very unstable now, so he was recovering in the Zhuge family, and now a middle-aged man replaced Zhuge Nanhua to guard the pagoda. He was also a member of the inner hall of the law enforcement hall. His name was Zhuge Nangong. He was Zhuge Nanhua's younger brother. Although his cultivation wasn't as good as Zhuge Nanhua, he was still a top-notch expert among the 9-star combat emperors. He was infinitely close to the peak of the 9-star combat emperors. Qin Feiyang had seen him when he was young, but he didn't have a deep impression of him. When he sensed Qin Feiyang's aura, Zhuge Nangong suddenly opened his eyes. 2 rays of cold light shot out from his eyes. Get out of the way. Qin Feiyang looked at him coldly and said, to enter the pagoda, you need the emperor's permission. Now that the emperor has been killed, the state preceptor is in charge. If you want to enter the pagoda, you have to find the state preceptor and get his handwritten order. Zhuge Nangong said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said jokingly, how come I don't know that the state preceptor is in charge now? Zhuge Nangong said. The state preceptor is second only to one person and above tens of thousands. Now that the emperor has been killed, of course the state preceptor is in charge of the situation. You really can't wait. Qin Feiyang laughed mockingly and said, what if I say that I have to go in today? Zhuge Nangong's face darkened. It seems that Zhuge Nanhua's fate isn't miserable enough. Since that's the case, then I'll let you be even more miserable than Zhuge Nanhua. Qin Feiyang's eyes surged with a cold light. Seeing this, Zhuge Nangong immediately stood up and flew into the air. The arrogant aura from before had disappeared and his face was filled with fear. Trash. Qin Feiyang laughed disdainfully and walked to the front of the pagoda. He took out the changshui and raised his blade. Flames flew everywhere and the pagoda door collapsed. Next, he put away the changshui and entered the pagoda openly. However, Qin Feiyang and Zhuge Nanhua did not know that in the air, a speck of dust had also quietly swept into the pagoda. Chapter 1351. When Qin Feiyang entered the pagoda, Zhuge Nangong immediately sent a message to the state preceptor. When he learned that Qin Feiyang was going to the 9 prefectures, his expression changed. He immediately opened the portal and descended above the pagoda. Looking at the tower door that was destroyed by Qin Feiyang, the anger in his heart immediately flared up. At this moment, Qin Feiyang had already opened the teleportation altar and left. What is he going to do in the 9 prefectures? The state preceptor looked at Zhuge Nangong and asked, do you think he will tell me? Zhuge Nangong smiled bitterly. If he hadn't run away, he would have been stripped naked and thrown into the central square like Zhuge Nanhua. What tricks is this little bastard playing? The state preceptor was confused. No, I have to go and take a look. With that, he also turned into a stream of light and rushed into the pagoda. Butterfly Valley. As usual, old man Qin sat leisurely by the lake drinking tea and fishing. Seemed that he really enjoyed this carefree life. Swish. Suddenly, a figure swooped down like lightning and landed beside old man Qin. It was Qin Feiyang. Old man Qin looked at Qin Feiyang and was slightly stunned. He smiled and said, where are you going this time? Qin Feiyang looked at the lake and sighed. I'm afraid only you have the mood to fish here. What do you mean? Old man Qin frowned. Qin Feiyang said, the emperor has been killed and his life is unknown. The imperial jade seal has also disappeared with him. It won't be long before the great Qin Empire falls into chaos. What? Old man Qin's eyes trembled. He quickly got up and looked at Qin Feiyang. What did you say? The emperor has been killed? Qin Feiyang nodded. How is this possible? Old man Qin's body shook and grabbed Qin Feiyang's clothes. He shouted, when did this happen? Not long ago. Qin Feiyang said. Qin Feiyang's face instantly turned pale. He asked, did you find out who did it? State Preceptor? He doesn't look like an imperial advisor. It's not Lu Xingchen either. I can't figure it out either. Who's behind all this? However, according to my investigation, the emperor isn't in the imperial capital right now, nor is he in the Sea of Reincarnation. Then he must be in the 9 prefectures. That's why I'm here to ask, have you seen him before? But now it seems that you haven't seen it before. Qin Feiyang rubbed his temples and said, how could this happen? Old man Qin was stunned. Suddenly, with a shudder, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, there are people guarding the teleportation altars in all the continents. I'll go ask them right away. After saying that, he immediately activated the teleportation gate. Wait. Qin Feiyang grabbed him, glanced at the void, and transmitted his voice. Use your divine sense to scan the Butterfly Valley. Why? Old Qin looked at him suspiciously. Didn't this mean that the person who kidnapped the emperor had never been to the 9 states? But why did Mu Qing say that the emperor was not in the capital? Was Mu Qing lying? But if Mu Qing was really lying, then why did Lu Xingchen follow him to the spiritual state? What was going on? Qin Feiyang's mind was completely confused. Little cousin, return to the capital immediately. Maybe I have a way to find the whereabouts of the emperor. Suddenly, Lu Zheng's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and hurriedly transmitted his voice. What way? It's a secret, Lu Zheng said mysteriously. Phew. Qin Feiyang secretly exhaled, glanced at old man Qin and the state preceptor, then turned and flew towards the secret chamber. The state preceptor followed closely behind. Seems that my good days are over. Old man Qin glanced at the Butterfly Valley and also turned to chase after Qin Feiyang and the state preceptor. After entering the secret chamber, Qin Feiyang activated the teleportation altar and jumped up. The state preceptor and old man Qin also jumped up the altar. The state preceptor raised his eyebrows and said, aren't you going to guard here? Old man Qin snorted. Do you think I'm still in the mood to guard here? I shouldn't have listened to you and guarded the Butterfly Valley. The state preceptor fell silent. That was because he knew that he could order anyone but old man Qin. Pagoda. Seeing the state preceptor return, Zhuge Nangong immediately went up and thought, what did he go to the spiritual state for? He didn't do anything. The state preceptor transmitted his voice. He didn't do anything? Then what did he go there for? To relax? Zhuge Nangong was stunned. To fish. The state preceptor said. Zhuge Nangong was speechless. He went all the way to fish? Who would believe that? But when he saw old man Qin, Zhuge Nangong's expression changed slightly. He bowed and said, greetings, old man Qin. Old man Qin nodded faintly and looked at the state preceptor. From now on, I will still guard the pagoda. Do you have any objections? Old man Qin is a person of virtue and prestige. How would I dare to have any objections? However, for safety reasons, I think that you should let Zhuge Nangong stay behind to assist you, the state preceptor said. He could already tell that old man Qin and Qin Feiyang had an unusual relationship. Naturally, he wouldn't be at ease letting old man Qin guard the pagoda alone. Therefore, he wanted Zhuge Nangong to stay behind to monitor old man Qin. Hearing this, old man Qin wasn't angry. Instead, he said faintly, Lord State Preceptor, you know very well that the back mountain of the Imperial Palace is extremely dangerous. Perhaps something will happen after you leave. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. The meaning of old man Qin's words was too obvious. If you dare to let Zhuge Nanhua stay, I will dare to kill him. How could the state preceptor not understand the meaning behind those words? He stared at old man Qin gloomily. Old man Qin was not to be outdone and stared back at the state preceptor. Qin Feiyang could even feel invisible sparks from the collision of their gazes in the void. Zhuge Nangong's face couldn't help but turn pale. Old man Qin had already spoken. How could he still dare to stay here? However, he was afraid of angering the state preceptor, so he didn't dare to say it out loud and could only feel anxious. All right, as you wish. I will let you guard the pagoda alone. Let's go. The state preceptor finally compromised. He turned around and strode outside. Zhuge Nangong heaved a sigh of relief and quickly followed. After the two of them left, Old Man Qin snorted from his nose and said, "This old man is getting more and more presumptuous. If I don't suppress his arrogance, he will think that he is the owner of this imperial palace." Qin Feiyong sneered and said, "Right now, he already thinks of himself as the owner of this imperial palace. That's because I wasn't around. Now that I'm back, he can't be so arrogant anymore." Old Man Qin snorted. "That's right. With an old man like you holding down the fort, I feel much more confident." Qin Feiyong smiled and said. Old Man Qin raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Your biological father was plotted against and you can still smile? Do you still have a conscience?" Qin Feiyong's face immediately turned cold and he said, "Let's not talk about this. We are still partners." All right. It's my fault. I shouldn't have mentioned this." Old Man Qin quickly waved his hand and apologized. Qin Feiyong's expression softened a lot. Old Man Qin sighed and asked, "Have you thought of the next step of the plan?" "No." Qin Feiyong answered straightforwardly. Then, he opened the teleportation door and walked in without saying a word. "Sigh. You turn hostile at the mention of His Majesty. Do you really hate His Majesty that much? No matter what, you are still father and son. Moreover, His Majesty was killed this time and his life is unknown. He has received the appropriate punishment. Can't you let go of the hatred in your heart? Even if it's just a little bit." Yiglao looked at Qin Feiyong's back. He seemed to be mumbling to himself, but also seemed to be talking to Qin Feiyong. His old face was full of disappointment. After Qin Feiyong disappeared, Old Man Qin retracted his gaze and looked at the broken tower door. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Without a doubt. Chapter 1352. Bright Sky Palace. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and the door closed with a bang. Then Lu Zheng appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyong asked, "What exactly do you have in mind?" "I already said it's a secret, why are you still asking?" Lu Zheng rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyong and said, "In short, you can stay here at ease and wait for my good news." After saying that, Lu Zheng opened the portal and disappeared without a trace. Qin Feiyong frowned. His figure flashed and also disappeared. Ancient pagoda. Above the village. Qin Feiyong stood in the void, looking down at the village. Soon he found Master Shen. At this moment, Master Shen was kneeling in the square in the center of the village. His clothes were ragged and his body was badly mutilated. He looked like a beggar, battered and exhausted. The villagers who passed by the square couldn't help but come forward and spit on him. Their eyes were full of disgust. There were even some children who peed on him. Swish! Qin Feiyong stepped out and landed on the square. "Greetings, young master." There were two burly men who were specially guarding Master Shen. When they saw Qin Feiyong appear, they immediately bowed and saluted. They were both 8-star combat emperors. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. He looked down at Master Shen and said lightly, "How does it feel to be condemned by thousands and spurned by thousands?" Master Shen immediately looked up at Qin Feiyong, his eyes full of resentment. "It seems that you haven't repented, but I don't expect you to. You can continue to kneel here and be tortured slowly. Don't blame anyone because this is what you deserve," Qin Feiyong said coldly. He looked up at the center of the square and was stunned. In the center of the square stood a stone statue. It was more than 100 feet tall. From the outline it was a young man. "Who is this?" Qin Feiyong looked at the two burly men and asked. The two men smiled at each other and said mysteriously, "Young master, why don't you go and take a look?" Qin Feiyong looked at the two of them suspiciously. He walked to the front of the stone statue and looked up. His body suddenly stiffened. This stone statue was actually him. "A few days ago, Miss Lu Hong told us that this place was originally reserved for you to plant the tree of creation. But you changed your mind and planted the tree of creation in the herb field. We thought that we couldn't just leave it empty, right? Thus, after some discussion, we decided to create your statue here. Firstly, it's our respect for you. Secondly, let the juniors of the village remember that it was you who saved the village. They must remember this kindness forever. The two burly men came over and explained with a smile. Idol, how am I qualified? Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. No. If it wasn't for the young lord's help, we would never have been able to escape from the state preceptor's evil clutches. Therefore you deserve it. The two men said solemnly. Qin Feiyong looked at the sincere faces of the two men and said with a smile, I've troubled you. What's the trouble? It's just a little effort. It's nothing. The two men rubbed their heads and giggled charmingly naively. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. Suddenly he seemed to have thought of something. He looked at the two men and asked, by the way, how are the people of the Sky Tiger tribe settling down now? It's being built in an orderly manner. The people of our village often go over to help. The two burly men laughed. That's good. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, look after Master Shen carefully. Don't let him hurt the children in the village. We will. The two men nodded. Qin Feiyong looked at the idol, then turned around and stepped into the air, descending over the herb field. The construction of the herb field was more than half completed. The entire herb field covered an area of 500 or 600 miles. The medicinal herbs swayed in the wind, flashing with multicolored light, exuding a majestic vitality. The most eye-catching one was undoubtedly the tree of fortune that was looted from the Mu family's herb field. The trunk was as thick as a dragon. 30 fruits of fortune were emitting a hazy luster. Lu Hong planted the tree of fortune in the center of the herb field. The magical power that it emitted almost covered the entire ancient tower. Lu Hong also planted the small tree of fortune next to it. But compared to the former, it was completely dwarfed and not worth mentioning. And under Lu Hong's lead, everyone busied themselves fervently. Old Master Luo Qianxue, Yan Nanshan, Lu Ji, and Run Wushuang were also helping. Feiyong. Young Master. Boss Qin. Seeing Qin Feiyong's arrival, everyone raised their heads and greeted Qin Feiyong. Thank you for your hard work. Qin Feiyong smiled. Building the herb field is for the benefit of all the people here, including us ferocious beasts. No matter how hard it is, it's worth it. Seahorse roared. It hasn't been long. Why did your mouth suddenly become so sweet? Qin Feiyong looked at it in surprise. It hopes that you can help it open the door of potential. Otherwise, why would it come here to help? Dan Wangkai said in disdain. Seahorse immediately glared at Dan Wangkai. Am I wrong? You're a typical person who doesn't wake up early without benefits. Dan Wangkai said in disdain. Then you shouldn't say it in public. How can I face others in the future if you do that? Besides, you can ask all the people and ferocious beasts here. Who doesn't want to open the door of potential? Seahorse said in dissatisfaction. All right. I won't mistreat anyone. However, everyone knows that the medicinal herbs for opening the door of potential are too precious. I can't take care of everyone. Qin Feiyong smiled. Understood. It's up to you. Seahorse chuckled. It was full of confidence in itself. And the capital of its confidence was undoubtedly its cultivation. As a 9-star emperor beast, it could really help Qin Feiyong at the moment. Therefore, Qin Feiyong would definitely prioritize it. In fact, Qin Feiyong had long thought about helping Wang Yangfeng and Lei Bao, these 9-star emperor beasts, to open the door of potential. However, there was a big problem in helping them open the door of potential. Because their cultivation was too high, they needed the help of the pseudo-god's pressure. However, in the Forgotten Continent and the Great Qin Empire, there were no pseudo-gods worthy of his trust. He didn't even completely trust Elder Qin. Therefore, this matter couldn't be rushed. Buzz. Suddenly the image crystal rang. Qin Feiyong hurriedly took it out and poured his battle qi into it. The next moment, Lu Zheng's virtual image appeared. Have you found it? Qin Feiyong asked. Lu Zheng didn't answer but asked instead. Are you in the ancient pagoda? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then come out quickly. After Lu Zheng finished speaking, the virtual image dissipated. What are you looking for? Did something happen again? Lu Hong soared into the sky and asked with concern. The old man and the others also looked at him suspiciously. Because inside the ancient pagoda, they couldn't hear the sounds outside, so no one knew that the emperor had been killed. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. I'll take care of it as soon as possible. Qin Feiyang comforted Lu Hong and nodded to the old man and the others below. Then, he left the ancient pagoda and appeared in the main hall. Lu Zheng was in the main hall at this moment. Seeing Qin Feiyang appear, Lu Zheng immediately frowned and said, "It's very strange." "What's strange?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at him in confusion. Lu Zheng said, "I've found the whereabouts of the emperor. Do you know where he is?" Qin Feiyang was instantly annoyed and roared, "Aren't you talking nonsense? If I knew, would I still be here looking at you? This guy is really crazy asking idiotic questions." Lu Zheng smiled embarrassedly and said, "The emperor is now in the spiritual state, and he's in the place where you used to live, Iron Ox Town." "What?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "This is what I don't understand. Elder Qin went to check, and no one activated the teleportation altar in the past few days. How did the emperor go to the spiritual state? Besides, he's not injured at all, and he's not captured." Lu Zheng frowned. Wait. Qin Feiyang quickly raised his hand and interrupted Lu Zheng, asking, "You said he's not captured?" "Yes. He's alone in Iron Ox Town, and he's sitting leisurely in front of the lake outside your yard fishing," Lu Zheng said strangely. "What? Fishing?" Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. What's going on? Suddenly, he realized another important point and looked at Lu Zheng with a frown. "You've already been to Iron Ox Town?" "No," Lu Zheng said. Chapter 1353. Qin Feiyang glanced at the emperor and then looked at the courtyard not far away. The gate of the courtyard was open and the emperor had obviously entered. "What are you doing here? Get out of here at once. This is my last piece of pure land. I don't want anyone to touch it, especially people like you," Qin Feiyang shouted. The emperor looked up at Qin Feiyang and said, "The whole world belongs to me. What qualifications do you have to ask me to get out?" "Haha," Qin Feiyang laughed and shook his head. "It seems that you already feel guilty." "What do you mean?" The emperor raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang sneered, "Then tell me, the world is so big, why did you come here instead of going to other places? Are you here to repent? Or to atone for your sins? Don't be too self-righteous. I'm not here to repent or atone for my sins, because the decisions I have made in my life are right and I have never regretted it," the emperor said lightly. "Then what are you doing here?" Qin Feiyang shouted. The emperor said, "I'm here to see how down and out you used to be, bastard." Before the emperor could say anything, Qin Feiyang was already furious. "Qin Feiyang, calm down." Old Qin saw that the situation was not good and comforted him. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and stared at the emperor, saying, "You're right, you're the emperor. The whole world belongs to you. But listen to me carefully. In this world, not every place is ruled by you. I'll say it one last time. Get out of here, otherwise don't blame me for being ruthless." Boom! After saying that, a monstrous killing intent rushed out from between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. The kill character was manifested. The bloody kill character made him look like a god of death. Old Qin's heart trembled. It seemed that this place was really a piece of pure land in Qin Feiyang's heart, and the emperor had touched his reverse scale. If this continued, the father and son pair might really come to blows. Scram! Qin Feiyang roared, his voice like a great bell shaking the sky. Bang! But at this moment, Old Man Qin, who was at the side, suddenly raised his arm and slapped the back of Qin Feiyang's head. "You!" Qin Feiyang abruptly turned his head and looked at Old Man Qin as he slowly fell to the ground. At the last moment before he lost consciousness, Qin Feiyang's entire body disappeared with a thought. What happened outside? Inside the castle? Lu Zheng was bewildered. Since Qin Feiyang wasn't in the castle, he couldn't see what was going on outside. He could only hear the sounds. Bang! Suddenly, a voice sounded behind him. Lu Zheng hurriedly turned his head and saw Qin Feiyang appear out of thin air and fall heavily to the ground. He had already fainted. "Little cousin." He hurriedly ran up and reached out to feel Qin Feiyang's pulse. When he found that Qin Feiyang was still alive, he was relieved. Who did it? Could it be Old Man Qin? Lu Zheng raised his eyebrows and listened carefully to the movements outside. Outside, Old Man Qin watched Qin Feiyong disappear and frowned slightly. Then he waved his hand and a surprising scene appeared. Above the lake a boundary suddenly appeared. Then, Old Man Qin directly entered the boundary and landed in front of the emperor. He was about to bow and kowtow. The emperor hurriedly reached out to stop him and said secretly, "Although Qin Feiyong is unconscious, there must be other people in the castle. If you have something to say, just send a message secretly. Don't say it out loud." "Yes," Old Man Qin secretly responded. The emperor glanced at the barrier and sighed inwardly. "It seems that the barrier you set up isn't very useful." The boundary was actually set up by Old Man Qin. If Qin Feiyong and Lu Zheng heard this, they would definitely be shocked. "I didn't expect that Qin Feiyong and the others were so powerful that they could ignore the boundary and find your position." Old Man Qin also looked helpless and then asked, "What should we do next?" The emperor was silent for a moment and sighed. "Even the boundary you set up can't escape their detection. To be honest, I really can't think of any other way unless, speaking of this." The emperor hesitated. Old Man Qin said, "Unless what?" Suddenly, Old Man Qin seemed to think of something and said in surprise, "Your Majesty, are you talking about the divine order left by the late emperor?" "Yes." The emperor nodded. The divine order was personally refined by the late emperor. It can block all the detection of the world, but the divine order can only be opened once. When the late emperor left this divine order, his intention was to protect the last trace of the bloodline power of the Qin clan when the great Qin was in danger. In other words, this divine order is the last life-saving talisman of the great Qin. The previous emperors were not willing to use it. "So, Your Majesty, you have to think twice." Old Man Qin bowed and said. The emperor said, "Then tell me, besides the divine order, what else can help me?" "Yes. Find Qin Feiyong. If Qin Feiyong is willing to help, no one can hurt you, Your Majesty." Old Man Qin said. "Humph." The emperor snorted and said, "If I ask him for help, where will my face go? Besides, do you think with his character he will help me?" Old Man Qin frowned and wanted to say something, but he didn't say it. "Enough. I have decided to open the divine order," the emperor said expressionlessly. Then a stream of light rushed out from between his eyebrows and floated in front of the two. Shockingly, it was a purplish gold token. The token was the size of an adult's palm and was glowing with a hazy purple gold divine light. On the front of the token there was a statue of a god. The statue was of a middle-aged man. He held the broken sword in his hand and looked askance at the heavens. Like a divine king, his aura covered the clouds. That's right. This was the statue of the first emperor. On the other side, there was a purple gold divine dragon. It was lifelike and one could even feel a strong sense of oppression. "Your Majesty, do you really want to do this?" Old Man Qin frowned. "I have no choice." The emperor murmured and the golden dragon battle chi poured into the divine order. With a buzz, the divine order shone brightly. Following that, with a crack, the divine order shattered and turned into specks of crystal light that merged into the emperor's body. Immediately, the emperor's entire body began to emit a bright purple gold divine light. Old Man Qin sighed deeply. What's done is done. He didn't say anything more and silently retreated to the side. Time passed by breath. The purple gold divine light on the emperor's body gradually converged. About 100 breaths passed. When the last wisp of purple gold divine light faded, the emperor returned to his previous appearance and didn't seem to have changed at all. But Mu Qing, who was in the distant state capital, suddenly changed his expression. "What's wrong?" "In the space divine object." Noticing the change in Mu Qing, Lu Xingchen asked in surprise. Mu Qing said in surprise, "I've been looking for the emperor with my heavenly eye. Although I can't find his exact location, I can still spy on him. But just now I suddenly couldn't see anything." "What?" Lu Xingchen's expression changed and he frowned. "How could this be?" "I don't know." Mu Qing shook his head and said, "But there's only one possibility for this to happen." "What possibility?" Lu Xingchen asked. "He's dead. Only when he's dead will my heavenly eye fail," Mu Qing said. "Dead?" Lu Xingchen's body stiffened and asked, "Is it possible that you've been opening your heavenly eye for a long time, causing it to fail?" "No." Mu Qing shook his head. "How could he be dead?" Lu Xingchen's face was full of disbelief. Suddenly, he shuddered and said, Qin Feiyang is also in the spiritual state. Let's see where he and Elder Qin are. Yes. Mu Qing nodded. By the lake. Elder Qin asked, Your Majesty, where do you plan to go now? Now that I have the divine edict, it doesn't matter where I go. But you plotted against Qin Feiyang. When he wakes up, he will definitely not let it go. How do you plan to deal with it? The emperor said. I have my ways. However, there's a problem that I don't know how to solve, Elder Qin said. What's the problem? The emperor asked. Elder Qin said, Your Majesty left. The imperial capital will be in chaos sooner or later. Who will manage the imperial court then? Whatever. Anyway, the imperial jade seal is in my hands. No one can take away my throne. The emperor snorted, his eyes flashing coldly. I'm afraid that when Your Majesty returns, things will have changed. Elder Qin sighed. Then let's wait and see. The emperor smiled coldly, then took a step forward, step by step, and gradually disappeared from Elder Qin's sight. Sigh. Why is it that I can't see through you now? Actually, I have a lot to say to Your Majesty, but I don't dare to say it. Looking at the direction where the emperor disappeared, Elder Qin sighed, his face full of melancholy. Throughout the whole process, the conversation between the two was carried out in secret, so Lu Zheng, who was in the castle, did not get any useful information. After a long time, Elder Qin waved his hand, and the barrier disintegrated and dissipated between heaven and earth. Just as the barrier dissipated, Mu Qing's eyes lit up. She looked at Lu Xingchen and said, I found Elder Qin. Where? Lu Xingchen asked anxiously. Mu Qing said, Iron Ox Town, in front of the lake where Qin Feiyang used to live. Why is he there? Lu Xingchen was surprised. He immediately left the space divine item, opened the portal, and descended above the lake. Elder Qin immediately sensed Lu Xingchen's aura. He looked up, and there was a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. He came really fast. Where's the emperor? Lu Xingchen glanced at the lake and asked Elder Qin. The emperor? Elder Qin was slightly stunned and puzzled. Aren't you looking for him? Why? You didn't find him? Elder Qin, we're all sensible people. Why are you playing dumb? Lu Xingchen's eyes flashed with anger. Playing dumb? I don't understand. I'm also looking for His Majesty. What do you mean by playing dumb? Elder Qin said. Lu Xingchen raised his eyebrows and glanced at the lake. Suddenly, he saw the fishing rod by the lake. His eyes flashed and he said, Let's not talk about the emperor first. Where's Qin Feiyang? In the castle. Elder Qin said. Lu Xingchen glanced at the void and said, Qin Feiyang, come out. Chapter 1354. Inside the castle. Lu Zheng frowned when he heard Lu Xingchen's voice. Then he looked down at Qin Feiyang. Time passed by slowly. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyelids moved and he slowly opened his eyes. He felt a tearing pain in his head. Elder Qin. This intense pain caused him to immediately recall what had happened before, and his entire body instantly emitted a monstrous vicious aura. Swish. He suddenly got up, rubbed the back of his head and waved his hand. An image appeared. Where's the emperor? Seeing only Elder Qin and Lu Xingchen in the image, Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked Lu Zheng. I don't know. I didn't hear anything before. The conversation between the emperor and Elder Qin should be in the dark. Lu Zheng said. Damn it. Qin Feiyang cursed angrily. He didn't expect Elder Qin to sneak attack him. Lu Zheng comforted him, Don't worry. When we return to the capital, I will immediately find the emperor. But why did you faint just now? It's Elder Qin. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with coldness. So it's him. In that case, he already knew that the emperor was in the spiritual state. He was just acting with us. Lu Zheng said in realization. Qin Feiyang sneered. The next moment, he appeared beside the lake and glanced at Elder Qin. Then he looked up at Lu Xingchen. He pointed at Elder Qin and said with a murderous aura, Let's not talk nonsense. Let's join hands and kill him. Huh. Lu Xingchen was shocked. Elder Qin's expression also changed. He hurriedly said, Qin Feiyong, listen to my explanation. What's there to explain? Qin Feiyong smiled coldly. He looked at Lu Xingchen and waited for Lu Xingchen's reply. Lu Xingchen looked at the two of them suspiciously. What's going on? Did something happen before he came? Elder Qin glanced at Lu Xingchen and secretly transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyong. If I really wanted to kill you, you wouldn't have just fainted. Wake up, killing me won't do you any good. Qin Feiyong said. Then why did you do that? Elder Qin said. He is the emperor of the Great Qin. I must protect him. Is that all? Qin Feiyong's expression. Yes. I didn't tell him a single word about what happened between you and me. I didn't betray you, please believe me. Old Qin said with a pleading tone. Qin Feiyong thought to himself. When did the emperor come to the spiritual state? When you came back from the continent. Old Qin said. I see. He entered the spiritual state after I humiliated Zhuge Nanhua. Qin said. Yes. And after you threw Zhuge Nanhua into the central square of the first district, the pagoda was unguarded. His Majesty took this opportunity to come to spirit state. Elder Qin said. Why did he come to spirit state? Why did he pretend to be killed? Don't tell me you don't know. Qin Feiyong secretly said. This? Elder Qin hesitated and transmitted his voice. I can't tell you for now, but please believe me. I really don't want to harm you. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly. He must be hiding something from me. Seeing Qin Feiyong and Elder Qin looking at each other in silence, Lu Xingchen knew that the two must be secretly transmitting their voices. Suddenly, his eyes flashed and he smiled. Brother Qin, it's not easy to kill him, but as long as you're willing to lend me Chang Shui, I have full confidence. Clang! Chang Shui immediately appeared in Qin Feiyong's hands. Good. Lu Xingchen was secretly delighted. Getting rid of Elder Qin was equivalent to getting rid of one of the pillars of the Great Qin Empire. It would undoubtedly be easier to destroy the Great Qin Empire in the future. At the same time, Elder Qin's body tightened and he said angrily in his heart, Qin Feiyong, don't mess around, okay? You'll only hurt your loved ones and delight your enemies by doing this. Do I have any relatives in the Great Qin Empire? Qin Feiyong looked at him coldly. Elder Qin was stunned. That's right. Did Qin Feiyong have any relatives? In the past he did, and that was Qin Feiyong's mother. But now Qin Feiyong's mother had disappeared without a trace. As for the others, they were basically the people Qin Feiyong hated the most. It could be said that there was no one in the Great Qin Empire that Qin Feiyong cared about. Sigh. Old Qin sighed deeply and said, if killing me can calm the rage in your heart, then do it. But don't forget the promise you made to me in the past to protect the Grand Qin Empire and its citizens. With that, he closed his eyes and had no intention of resisting. Swoosh! Lu Xingchen's eyes flashed as he took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyong, reaching out to grab Chang Shui. But suddenly, Qin Feiyong's mind moved, and Chang Shui turned into a stream of light and disappeared into his energy reserve. Lu Xingchen grabbed nothing and frowned. What do you mean? Can't I change my mind? Qin Feiyong looked at him indifferently. Lu Xingchen went berserk and said angrily, are you messing with me? Aren't you messing with me too? You knew that the emperor was in the spiritual state, but you didn't tell me. Tell me, what are your intentions? Qin Feiyong sneered. Lu Xingchen was furious. Since you're going against me, don't blame me for being ruthless. The conditions I promised you in the Bright Sky Palace are nullified. Qin Feiyong said. Nullified. Hearing this, Lu Xingchen was about to go crazy. Qin Feiyong didn't pay any more attention to him. He looked at Old Man Qin and said, and you, don't talk to me about promises. Promises are built on the foundation of trust. But now, you've betrayed the trust between us. Trust? Are you sure you've trusted me completely? Elder Qin said angrily. I admit that I didn't trust you completely, but from the beginning to the end, I've never done anything to betray you. This time you started it first. So in the future, I won't interfere in anything, even if the Great Qin Empire really changes hands. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, Lu Xingchen and Lu Zheng heard him without sending a voice transmission. After speaking, he opened the portal and turned to leave. This time, He was really disheartened and tired of these schemes. He didn't want to care about those trivial matters anymore. Elder Qin looked at Qin Feiyang's back with bitterness in his heart. Lu Xingchen raised his eyebrows, glanced at Elder Qin, and followed him into the space artifact. He immediately became furious and roared, "Damn it, damn it! My lord, please calm down." Mu Qing bowed. It wasn't easy to get Qin Feiyang to agree to my conditions, but it's nullified just like that. How can I not be angry? Lu Xingchen roared. His original plan was to find the emperor and then control him. In this way, the Great Qin Empire would become the Tianyang Empire sooner or later, but in the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Mu Qing's expression was also full of anger. This matter is a little strange. Lu Xingchen said in a deep voice, "Say it. If the emperor is really here, how did Qin Feiyang find him before us? Did Elder Qin tell him?" But looking at his attitude towards Elder Qin, it seems that Elder Qin didn't tell him. So, I think there's a big mystery here. Mu Qing said. That's right. You didn't find him even with the all-seeing eye, so how did he find him? Although this is where Qin Feiyang used to live, the emperor and Qin Feiyang have a deep hatred. Who would think that the emperor would come here? I'm afraid that even Qin Feiyang himself wouldn't think of it. Lu Xingchen's eyes flickered. Mu Qing said in surprise, could it be that Qin Feiyang also has some treasure that can spy on the whereabouts of others? Or secret? This, Lu Xingchen was stunned. That's impossible, right? If he really has it, then why did he ask you to use the all-seeing eye to find the emperor? This is also what I can't figure out. Is it really a coincidence? Mu Qing frowned. Back to Qin Feiyang. He had already entered the secret chamber below the Butterfly Valley. Without any delay, he opened the portal and returned to the Bright Sky Palace. Then, he entered the ancient castle and opened the 6-word divine formula. Lu Zheng glanced at him and went forward to ask, are you really going to ignore it? Qin Feiyang nodded. Even if I can find the emperor's whereabouts again? Lu Zheng asked again. There's no need. I'm tired. Qin Feiyang said. Sigh. Lu Zheng sighed helplessly and said, send me out. Qin Feiyang waved his hand without looking back. Lu Zheng disappeared immediately. Qin Feiyang also began to copy the second stroke of the Xing character formula. Great Qin Empire in a remote village. Here. There was no killing, no quarrel. The villagers left early and returned late, farming and reclamation, showing a peaceful atmosphere. At this moment, in the center of the village, in front of a wooden building, an old man in linen clothes was half lying on a shabby wooden armchair, holding an old cattail leaf fan in his hand. The old man shook the cattail leaf fan to drive away the heat, while telling a story with a kind smile on his face. Next to him, a group of teenagers ranging from a few years old to a teenager listened with great interest. Little stars would appear in their big eyes from time to time. Swish! Suddenly, a dark-skinned young man appeared beside the old man out of thin air. Brother Zheng. The group of teenagers immediately got up and surrounded the young man. The young man was Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng rubbed the head of a teenager dotingly and said with a smile, I have something to tell second grandpa now. You guys go and have fun first. Okay. The group of teenagers was very obedient. Without waiting for his voice to finish, they ran away energetically. The old man waved the cattail leaf fan and looked at Lu Zheng with a smile. You're back. Lu Zheng nodded. The old man glanced at Lu Zheng's expression and said, you don't look well. Did something happen? Yes. We had already found the emperor, but Elder Qin suddenly made a move and knocked out little cousin. Because of this, little cousin was angry and threatened not to interfere in the affairs of the imperial palace. Lu Zheng said helplessly. The old man frowned, sat up and asked, what about the emperor? His whereabouts are unknown. Lu Zheng said. Elder Qin's approach is too unwise. Even if he wants to help the emperor, there are other ways. Why would he plot against Feiyang? With Feiyang's temper, it's already good that he didn't turn hostile directly. Second grandpa sighed. Who said he didn't turn hostile? At that time, as soon as he woke up, he went to Lu Xingchen and prepared to join forces to kill Elder Qin. He even planned to take over Changshui and Lu Xingchen. But in the end, for some reason, he didn't do that. Otherwise, Elder Qin would have died today. Chapter 1355. Second Grandpa was stunned. He smiled and said, Feiyong didn't attack Elder Qin, which means that he hasn't lost his mind. It also means that he hasn't really let it go. He was just angry when he said that he didn't care. Angry words? I don't think so. You didn't see how he looked at that time. Even I was shocked. He didn't seem to be joking at all. Lu Zheng shook his head and said. Second Grandpa smiled and didn't say anything more. He asked, then why did you come back this time? Lu Zheng said, I want to see the Emperor's whereabouts again. You already said that Feiyong doesn't care anymore. Is there still a need for that? We'll talk about it later. So what if we find the Emperor? Kill him? I think Feiyong hasn't figured out how to resolve his grudges with the Emperor yet. Second Grandpa said with a smile. I know that. But the Emperor's behavior this time is too strange. I think it's better to investigate thoroughly in case of any accidents. Lu Zheng said. Kid, you've been with Feiyong for a while. How did you become as suspicious as him? Second Grandpa was speechless. You don't say. Although he's my little cousin, I've learned a lot from him during this period of time. Lu Zheng chuckled. Then tell me, what have you learned? Second Grandpa was curious. Lu Zheng's face darkened and he said, Don't change the topic. We're not talking about this now. Second Grandpa smiled helplessly, got up and said, Okay, I'll go and take a look again. Take me with you. I've long wanted to see that mysterious divine object. Lu Zheng immediately went up and grabbed Second Grandpa's arm, chuckling. No, this is a secret of our clan. In the world, no one knows about it except for the elders of our clan. Second Grandpa shook his head. Lu Zheng asked, Then, do Uncle Black and my brother know about it? Of course they know. After all, they are the pillars of our clan. Second Grandpa said. What do you mean? Lu Zheng was immediately annoyed and said. Do you mean that I'm not a pillar of the clan? Second Grandpa said. I don't know about the future, but at least not now. I'm heartbroken. Lu Zheng snorted. Second Grandpa glanced at him, then looked at Lu Zheng's hand, which was tightly gripping his arm, and said, Since you're sad, why don't you let go? I just won't let go. If you can be so ruthless, then chop off my hand. Lu Zheng snorted and turned his head away, looking like a rascal. Second Grandpa felt helpless and said, All right. Since you've already broken through to the combat Emperor realm, it's good to let you experience it. Thank you, Second Grandpa. I love you the most. Lu Zheng was overjoyed. He even wanted to kiss the old man's face a few times. The speed at which he changed his attitude was faster than flipping a book. Second Grandpa shook his head helplessly. With a wave of his palm leaf fan, the two of them appeared in a secret passage. Where is this? Lu Zheng looked around in surprise. Under the ground of our village. As Second Grandpa spoke, he walked towards the end of the tunnel. Fuck. After living here for so many years, I still don't know that there's a secret passage under the village. Lu Zheng was dumbfounded. Then he quickly chased after Second Grandpa. There are still many things that you don't know. Second Grandpa smiled faintly. Yes, that genius brother of mine knows everything, but I'm like a blank piece of paper. This is the difference in treatment. I'm just wondering why I was born in the Lu family. How unlucky. Lu Zheng complained unhappily. When Second Grandpa heard this, the veins on his forehead bulged. He flicked Lu Zheng's head with the back of his hand. Lu Zheng grimaced in pain, looking aggrieved. Is it because I haven't hit you in so long that your skin is itching for a beating? Second Grandpa glared at him and continued walking forward. Biased. Lu Zheng groaned. His face was full of displeasure. After walking for a while, flames suddenly appeared in front of them. Lu Zheng looked at the light curiously and forgot about the pain in his head. He couldn't help but quicken his pace. Soon, he saw that the light came from a grotto. This is it. Second Grandpa stopped in front of the grotto and pointed down. Lu Zheng looked down. The grotto was round and bottomless. Its diameter was more than 100 feet. It was like a dark bottomless pit, exuding a mysterious aura. In the middle of the grotto, dozens of meters below, there was a fiery red mirror floating in the air. The mirror was oval in shape and was the size of 2 grown men's palms. It flickered with divine light, making the grotto as bright as day. The frame of the mirror was made of a kind of crimson divine iron. 2 fire phoenixes were carved on it. The power of a divine beast could be felt from afar. What's that? Lu Zheng was surprised. The sky mirror. Second grandpa looked at the divine mirror. His eyes, which had always been calm and tranquil, were now filled with dazzling divine light. The sky mirror? Lu Zheng was slightly taken aback. He murmured, the name sounds quite impressive. I wonder if it's really that powerful? Second grandpa snorted. The sky mirror can see through the laws of heaven and earth and peek at the source of all things. It is the most precious treasure in the world. Its power is not something a young boy like you can imagine. Really? Lu Zheng was in disbelief. Nonsense. Do I look like a liar? Second grandpa looked at him angrily. Lu Zheng smiled. Phew. Second grandpa let out a long breath and calmed down. He said, please come out of seclusion and revive the sky mirror again. His voice reached the bottom of the grotto, echoing deafeningly. There are people down there. Lu Zheng was surprised. Second grandpa, we just revived the sky mirror not long ago. Now you want us to revive it again. Are you going to kill us? A dissatisfied voice sounded from below the grotto. Then, 10 figures rushed up and landed beside the sky mirror. These 10 people were old and young, male and female, but they did not have any aura. If they were not standing in the void, one would think that they were mortals. Lu Zheng looked at the 10 people in surprise and said, Second grandpa, who are they? Why do they all look so unfamiliar? Are they the old monsters of our Lu family who have died? Old monsters? The 10 people were stunned. They turned to look at Lu Zheng. Their faces were dark, and the veins on their foreheads were bulging. Second grandpa was also amused. One had to know. Even he did not dare to be too presumptuous with these 10 people in front of him. But this little bastard actually called them old monsters in front of these people? Newborn calves are really not afraid of tigers. Bang! There was no suspense. Lu Zheng was hit again and cried out in pain. Second grandpa said with a dark face, what old monsters? Don't you have any manners? Call him ancestor. They are indeed those old monsters. I thought they were all dead. It turns out that they are all alive and well. Lu Zheng pursed his lips, looked at the 10 people and bowed. Greetings, ancestor. Only then did the 10 people's expressions ease up. But suddenly, Lu Zheng rushed in front of them, licked his face and said with a smile, Ancestor, this is the first time we meet. Do you have any greeting gifts? I am not greedy. 7 or 8 divine artifacts will be enough. The 10 people's faces also darkened. How could the Lu family have such a descendant? 7 or 8 divine artifacts. How dare he say that? A white-haired old man, the corner of his mouth twitched violently, looked up at Second Grandpa and said, Second Grandpa, is he the little guy called Lu Zheng that you often talk about? That's him. Second Grandpa coughed and nodded. That's not right. Didn't you say that this kid is very sensible? Why does it look like that now? The old man in white frowned. This, ahem. Maybe he was too excited to see you and couldn't control himself. Second Grandpa said, looking very unnatural. Is that so? The old man in white looked at him playfully. This? Second Grandpa felt more and more guilty. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, let's hurry up and activate the Taoist mirror to find the whereabouts of the emperor. The old man in white looked at Second Grandpa meaningfully, waved his old hand gently, and Lu Zheng immediately flew toward Second Grandpa uncontrollably. Let's begin. The old man in white looked at the other 9 people. Everyone nodded and immediately spread out, forming a circle around the Taoist mirror. Then, the 10 people looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Boom! 10 terrifying divine auras immediately rushed out of the 10 people's bodies. Then, the 10 people raised their arms and pointed their index fingers at the Taoist mirror. The power of the fake gods suddenly emerged from their fingertips and rushed toward the Taoist mirror like a tide. Damn, there are 10 fake gods. I always thought that the Lu family only has a few fake gods on the surface. Sensing the amazing divine aura, Lu Zheng was stunned. Second Grandpa said in a low voice, I just said that there are a lot of things about the Lu family that you don't know. Lu Zheng glanced at Second Grandpa and suddenly smiled mischievously. Second Grandpa, is what the old man said true? Second Grandpa was a little annoyed and said expressionlessly, "What do you mean true? I don't understand." "Stop pretending. That old man clearly said that you said that I was very sensible in front of them. Second Grandpa, in fact you still feel sorry for me in your heart, right?" Lu Zheng laughed. "Yes, I do feel sorry for you, but who told you to be so disappointing? Do you know why I said that to them?" Second Grandpa said angrily. "Why?" Lu Zheng was curious. "Because they have the divine arts in their hands. This old man is saying this to leave a good impression on you in their hearts. But you revealed your true nature as soon as you saw them and even called them old monsters. You're really bold. Now, I'm afraid that they are very disappointed in you." Second Grandpa looked at him as if he had expected better from him. "Oh, why didn't you say such a good thing earlier?" When Lu Zheng heard this, it was too late for regrets. Second Grandpa rolled his eyes and said, "Your eldest brother is not like you. When he first came to meet them, he was very mature and steady. At that time they gave him a divine art." Obviously, Second Grandpa was deliberately provoking him. "Oh my God! My divine art!" When Lu Zheng heard that, his intestines turned green with regret and he cried out in sorrow. Second Grandpa gloated and said to himself, "But don't be sad. They are not unreasonable people. As long as you perform well in the future, you will have a chance." "Really?" Lu Zheng was surprised and doubtful. "Yes." Second Grandpa nodded. "Okay. I will perform well and strive to get the divine art." Lu Zheng clenched his hands and nodded heavily. What a joke. Who didn't want a divine art? For the divine art, not to mention performing well, even if he had to carry the shoes of those 10 old monsters, it didn't matter. Chapter 1356. Buzz. The Taoist mirror kept buzzing, and the divine light became more and more dazzling. The 2 fire phoenixes on the mirror frame also seemed to come alive. They circled around the Taoist mirror, flying and emitting divine power. "Amazing," Lu Zheng muttered. He looked at the 10 people again, and a touch of surprise appeared in his eyes. He discovered that there were bean-sized beads of sweat on the 10 people's foreheads. Even his face was faintly pale. What's going on? Lu Zheng looked at the 10 people in confusion. One had to know that these were 10 false gods. 10 false gods working together were still so difficult? He swallowed and asked in a low voice, "Second Grandpa, what level is this Taoist mirror?" "I don't know either. However, at least 10 false gods are needed to revive the Taoist mirror." Second Grandpa said to himself. "What? At least 10 false gods?" Lu Zheng was stunned, and his breathing became rapid. He muttered, "So, it's much more powerful than Mu Qing's all-seeing eye? They can't be compared. The all-seeing eye is a fighting soul. Its power will continue to increase as its owner's cultivation level increases." Second Grandpa said. Lu Zheng said in surprise, "You mean Mu Qing's all-seeing eye will surpass the Taoist mirror sooner or later? That's inevitable." Second Grandpa nodded. Lu Zheng was speechless. He said, "It seems that we have to find a chance to get rid of this person. If there's a chance, it's best to get rid of him. Otherwise, this person will become our biggest enemy in the future. However, it won't be easy for him to surpass the Taoist mirror. Because according to my research, the Taoist mirror should be a divine artifact of the same level as Changshui and the castle. Of course, this is just my guess. Maybe Changshui and the castle are of a higher level than the Taoist mirror." Second Grandpa laughed secretly. "Wait, are you sure that the Taoist mirror is of the same level as Changshui?" Lu Zheng frowned. "Why do you ask?" Second Grandpa was suspicious. "Last time in Wang Yongfeng's village, in order to kill the state preceptor, my younger cousin lent Changshui to Ren Duxing. At that time, Ren Duxing revived Changshui with just a wisp of his divine consciousness. But now the sky-stealing mirror needs 10 fake gods to be revived. Why does it seem like Changshui's level is lower than the sky-stealing mirror?" Lu Zheng was doubtful. "Are you sure that Ren Duxing has fully recovered?" Second Grandpa chuckled. "What do you mean?" Lu Zheng was stunned. "Changshui is not as simple as you think. When Ren Duxing revived Changshui, he probably didn't even have 1/10 of its power. Although this old man doesn't know exactly how strong Changshui is, this old man can determine that if he fully recovers, He should be able to destroy half of the Great Qin Empire, or perhaps even stronger. Second Grandpa said. What? Lu Zheng was dumbfounded and asked, can't the sky-stealing mirror do the same? No. Although the sky-stealing mirror can spy on everything, it's not very lethal. It's considered an auxiliary divine object. Of course, it's not without any lethality. Second Grandpa said. I see. Lu Zheng looked at the sky-stealing mirror. Although it was only an auxiliary divine object, it was an invincible existence in today's world. If he could get it, thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. Don't blame this old man for not telling you in advance. The sky-stealing mirror is the most precious treasure of the Lu family. If you dare to do anything to it, Second Grandpa smiled coldly, pointed at the 10 people and said, they will let you taste despair. How dare I? Lu Zheng smiled embarrassedly. Boom! Before he finished speaking, a mighty aura rushed out of the sky-stealing mirror. There seemed to be images flashing on the transparent mirror, but they were very blurry and couldn't be seen clearly. How could this be? The 10 people looked at the sky-stealing mirror, their faces full of shock. Second Grandpa also took a step forward and landed beside the old man in white. He said in a deep voice, the sky-stealing mirror has never had such a situation before. Could it be? That's right. The emperor must have used the divine order left by the previous emperor. The old man in white said. Is he crazy? For 10,000 years, no emperor has used the divine order because they all know that the divine order is the last life-saving talisman of the Great Qin Empire. Has he never thought about how to protect the Great Qin Empire when it faces a disaster in the future? Second Grandpa was furious. The old man in white looked at Second Grandpa and sighed. Our current emperor is a little selfish. The others also frowned. Lu Zheng noticed that the atmosphere was not right. He looked at the sky-stealing mirror and flew to Second Grandpa's side. He frowned and said, Second Grandpa, what's going on? It's a long story. In short, whether it's the sky-stealing mirror or the all-seeing eye, they can't find the emperor anymore. Second Grandpa said helplessly. Lu Zheng's face stiffened. Second Grandpa said, go and tell Feiyong not to force himself too much. Follow his heart. Okay. Lu Zheng nodded. Bright Sky Palace. After Lu Zheng returned, he conveyed Second Grandpa's words to Qin Feiyong without missing a word. But he didn't say a word about the sky-stealing mirror. He only said that no one could find the emperor now. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while. Then he ignored the outside world and continued to copy the Xing character formula. Lu Zheng glanced at Qin Feiyong and then scanned the castle. Now, in the castle, in addition to Wang Yongfeng, the seal, and the thunder leopard, there was also the fire qilin. Ever since they rescued the fire qilin from the Mu family, it had been recovering. 10 days in the castle was 1 day outside. It was almost fully recovered now. A divine beast. Unfortunately, it's not what my Lu family wants. My Lu family only wants the divine beast fire phoenix. Lu Zheng looked at the fire qilin and muttered to himself. He also sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes to meditate. In the ancient tower, the construction of the herb field was finally completed. Lu Hong, Dan Wangkai, Viper, Ren Wushuang, Seahorse, and the others all came to the castle and continued to cultivate. As for the follow-up management of the herb field, Qin Feiyong handed it over to Old Master, Luo Qianxue, Yan Nanshan, and Lu Ji. Of course, this was proposed by the 4 of them, because they wanted to share some of the burden with Qin Feiyong. The construction of the Sky Tiger tribe was also nearing completion. It was worth mentioning that Wang Xiaojie and Mu Chan also fought with the beasts in the ancient tower all day long. Whether it was their temperament or courage, they were slowly changing. Especially Wang Xiaojie. In order to enter the castle to cultivate as soon as possible, he was putting his life on the line. Time passed day by day just like that. Outside, 15 days had passed. Inside the ancient castle, a total of 150 days had passed. It was equivalent to 5 months. Boom! Early in the morning, Qin Feiyong finally completed the second stroke of the movement character formula. His cultivation soared to a 3-star combat emperor. According to the time in the outside world, the second stroke took 5 days more than the first stroke. It seems that the later strokes, the longer the time needed. Fortunately, the rules of time in the castle have changed. Otherwise, I don't know how long it would take for me to complete all the strokes of the movement character formula, Qin Feiyang muttered. He calmed his heart, restrained his aura, and continued to copy the third stroke. Lu Zheng was awakened by Qin Feiyang's aura. Seeing that Qin Feiyang had no intention of asking about the situation outside, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart and continued to cultivate. And these days passed. Not only Qin Feiyang, everyone's cultivation had improved, especially White-Eyed Wolf. Other than building the herb field, he had always been in seclusion cultivation. In addition, his talent was better than everyone else's. His current cultivation had already reached the level of a 2-star combat emperor. Anyway, its plan was to catch up to Qin Feiyang no matter what. Although he didn't have the purple gold dragon blood and his speed wasn't as fast as Qin Feiyang's, he had more time than Qin Feiyang, because he didn't need to care about the outside world. He only needed to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, outside another 10 days had passed. In addition to the previous 15 days, a total of 25 days had passed since the emperor went missing. Although 25 days had passed, everything in the imperial palace was normal. There were no disturbances in the imperial capital, because, whether it was the imperial tutor or old man Qin, they were both deliberately blocking the news of the emperor's disappearance. As for Lu Xingchen, he unexpectedly remained silent. However, although the imperial capital looked calm on the surface, the competition between old man Qin and the imperial tutor had never stopped. The imperial tutor tried his best to monopolize the power. Old man Qin tried his best to stop him. But in comparison, old man Qin wasn't as good as the imperial tutor. Because the imperial tutor had the entire law enforcement palace behind him, as well as the Zhuge family and the current Empress Dowager. Moreover, the invincible Black Army was also basically under the imperial tutor's control. Old Qin, on the other hand, was alone. As for the commander of the Kirin army, neither side dared to offend him, so they had always had an attitude of not helping each other. Without anyone's help, how could old man Qin fight against the imperial tutor with his own strength? He was now in a terrible fix. During this period, he also went to the Bright Heaven Palace to look for Qin Feiyang several times, because now only Qin Feiyang could keep the imperial tutor in check. But every time he returned empty-handed. Not to mention seeing Qin Feiyang, he didn't even hear Qin Feiyang's voice. What should I do? Every night, old man Qin stood alone in the sky above the pagoda, frowning and sighing. Although he knew that the emperor wasn't dead, for some reason, he didn't dare to say it. On the morning of the 26th day of Qin Feiyang's seclusion, early in the morning, outside the Golden Imperial Palace, hundreds of people came one after another. They were the civil and military officials of the Great Qin Empire. The various marquises were also there. They gathered outside the Golden Imperial Palace, whispering and discussing in low voices, and most of them were questioning voices. The head eunuch walked out of the Golden Imperial Palace and asked suspiciously, "Why are you all here?" Head eunuch, last time you said that His Majesty was unwell and let us handle the matters at hand, but now it's been almost a month, why hasn't His Majesty come to court yet? Where is His Majesty feeling unwell? Can you let us see His Majesty? The civil and military officials spoke one after another. No matter what, as time passed, it would definitely arouse suspicion. I'm afraid that won't do. The head eunuch shook his head. He looked calm on the surface, but he couldn't help but panic in his heart. Paper can't wrap fire, this was a famous saying. Chapter 1357. Why not? His Majesty hasn't appeared for so long. We care about him and just want to meet him. Steward, tell us honestly. Is there something you're hiding from us? Hearing the words of the head eunuch, the civil and military officials were enraged. His tone also became aggressive. Seeing this, the head eunuch became more and more flustered, not knowing how to deal with it. We must see His Majesty today. Yes, if we don't see His Majesty, we will stand here and not leave. A portion of the people said angrily. They were all old officials of the Great Qin Empire. Although their status in the Great Qin Empire was not comparable to the various marquises, they were still loyal to the emperor. Everyone, it is His Majesty's order to not see everyone. Why make things difficult for the steward? Suddenly, a faint laughter rang out, and Zhuge Wuhou appeared out of thin air in front of the throne room. Seeing Zhuge Wuhou's arrival, the head eunuch seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw. He ran in front of Zhuge Wuhou and said in a low voice, "These people are already suspicious. Quickly help me deal with them." Zhuge Wuhou secretly said, "Don't worry, I came here to help you deal with them." The head eunuch heaved a sigh of relief. Zhuge Wuhou, His Majesty hasn't attended the morning court for so many days. Aren't you worried at all? Someone looked at Zhuge Wuhou and said. This person was also a marquis. His name was Xiao Wuhou, but his strength was much weaker than Zhuge Wuhou. Zhuge Wuhou looked at Xiao Wuhou, and a cold light flashed in his old eyes. He sighed. This marquis is naturally worried. Xiao Wuhou said. Then why are you still speaking up for the steward? I just said that it was His Majesty's order to not see everyone. What's the use of making things difficult for the steward? Zhuge Wuhou said. Xiao Wuhou said, we are not making things difficult for the steward. We just want to see His Majesty with our own eyes and confirm His Majesty's safety. Zhuge Wuhou's face immediately darkened as he said angrily, Xiao Wuhou, what do you mean by that? Could it be that there is someone in the imperial palace who dares to plot against His Majesty? Xiao Wuhou's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, that's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? Zhuge Wuhou's eyes darkened. Seeing that Zhuge Wuhou's aura was becoming more and more oppressive, Xiao Wuhou's eyes were also filled with anger as he said, what? Is it wrong for me to be concerned about His Majesty? That's right. But please don't talk nonsense. It will cause panic. After all, you are also a martial marquis. Don't be so reckless, lest others misunderstand that you, Marquis Xiao, have ulterior motives. Zhuge Wuhou said. Ulterior motives? This marquis only wanted to see His Majesty, yet you're obstructing me in every way possible. If there's anyone with ulterior motives, it's you. Marquis Xiao shouted. Marquis Xiao, please pay attention to your words. Zhuge Wuhou was furious. Just as the two of them were about to explode in anger, a figure descended from the sky above the throne room. He was wearing a dragon robe and a dragon crown on his head. His entire body was exuding an extremely majestic aura. Who else could it be but the Emperor? Your Majesty! The head eunuch was overjoyed. He quickly flew to the front of the Emperor and bowed. Your Majesty! Greetings, Your Majesty! The officials below also knelt and kowtowed, including Marquis Zhuge. However, in Marquis Zhuge's heart, he was extremely bewildered. Wasn't the Emperor already killed? Why did he suddenly come back? And from the looks of it, there was no trace of injury. All of you rise. The Emperor swept his gaze across the crowd of officials, and an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. He then entered the throne room and sat on the dragon throne right above. The civil and military officials also entered the throne room one after another, neatly lining up on both sides of the hall below. Your Majesty, I heard that you were unwell. Are you better now? Marquis Xiao took a step forward and asked with concern. I'm fine now. Thank you for your concern, Marquis Xiao. The Emperor said with a faint smile. Marquis Xiao heaved a sigh of relief and said respectfully, Your Majesty's words are too serious. Caring for Your Majesty is your subjects' duty and responsibility. The Emperor nodded and waved his hand. Marquis Xiao bowed and consciously retreated to his original position. Another minister walked out from the crowd and stood in the middle of the hall. He bowed and said, Your Majesty, there have been a lot of official matters piled up these days. This old minister. But before he could finish, the Emperor waved his hand and said, We'll talk about official matters later. Leave first, I have something to announce. Yes. The minister was slightly taken aback, respectfully responded, and then retreated into the crowd. The Emperor glanced at the civil and military officials. The civil and military officials also looked at the Emperor suspiciously. For a moment, the throne room fell into a dead silence. A moment later, the Emperor finally broke the silence and said with a smile, The matter that I want to announce is a great thing for my great Qin Empire. What good thing? Marquis Zhuge's eyes flashed as he asked with a smile. The Emperor said, I have already comprehended the profound meaning of becoming a god. What? Marquis Zhuge was shocked. The others were stunned for a moment, and then they were all overjoyed. The emperor smiled and said, however, I have just entered the threshold and still need to comprehend it. Therefore, I have decided to go into seclusion for a period of time. This is indeed a good thing. Your Majesty becoming a god is what everyone wants. We support your Majesty. The civil and military officials laughed. The emperor smiled and said, however, during this period of time when I am in seclusion, someone must be in charge of the court. After thinking about it, I finally found a suitable candidate. Who? Everyone looked at the emperor in confusion. There was expectation and desire. Being in charge of the imperial court was a good job, and everyone wanted it. The emperor glanced at the officials and said with a smile, this person is the imperial preceptor. The imperial preceptor is highly respected and resourceful. I am most at ease with him taking charge of the court. I wonder if anyone has any objections? Hearing this, many people had a trace of disappointment in their eyes. In terms of qualifications and strength, no one can compare to the imperial preceptor. This old official has no objections. This old official has no objections either. Several officials expressed their opinions one after another. When the others heard this, they also shook their heads, indicating that they had no objections. Very good. The emperor's dragon face was overjoyed. He looked at the eunuch on the side and said, summon the imperial preceptor. Yes. The eunuch responded respectfully and said loudly, Imperial preceptor. Before his voice faded, the imperial preceptor appeared outside the throne room and strode into the throne room. He bowed and said, this old official greets your Majesty. Did you hear what I said before? The emperor asked. Yes. The imperial preceptor replied respectfully. The emperor asked, then are you willing to take on this heavy responsibility? This is this old official's honor. This old official will do his best to manage the court and wait for your Majesty to come out of seclusion. The imperial preceptor lowered his head and said, not declining at all, because this was exactly what he wanted. I believe in you. The emperor nodded, then looked at the officials and said, if there is anything in the future, there is no need to go through me. You can directly report to the imperial preceptor. Yes. Everyone replied. The emperor waved his hand and said, then you can leave first. I still have things to tell the imperial preceptor. Oh right, Zhuge Wuho, stay. This official will take his leave. The civil and military officials bowed respectfully, then turned around and left the throne room in an orderly manner. Zhuge Wuho stood below, looking at the imperial preceptor and the emperor, his eyes filled with suspicion. The emperor looked at the eunuch and said, you can leave as well. Close the door on the way. Yes. The eunuch replied and quickly ran out, closing the door. After the door was closed, the imperial preceptor waved his hand and a barrier appeared, enveloping the entire hall. This barrier had the effect of soundproofing. Even if one stood outside the door, they would not be able to hear the sounds inside. Then, the imperial preceptor turned to look at Zhuge Wuho and chuckled. Are you very puzzled right now? Zhuge Wuho wanted to say something but hesitated, as if he was somewhat afraid. The imperial preceptor glanced at the emperor, then looked at Zhuge Wuho and smiled. Don't worry, he's one of us. One of us? Zhuge Wuho looked at the emperor in shock. The emperor's face was also full of smiles. The imperial preceptor looked at the emperor and smiled. Let him see your original body. The emperor nodded and consumed a facial restoration pill. Immediately, whether it was the emperor's figure or face, they all began to change. Finally, a familiar face appeared in Zhuge Wuho's line of sight. If Qin Feiyong was here, he would be able to recognize him at a glance. This person was Zhuge Nanhua. This Zhuge Wuho was stunned. Zhuge Nanhua laughed. How is it, are you surprised? Zhuge Wuho was stunned. He looked at the imperial preceptor and Zhuge Nanhua, and asked, what exactly is going on? Zhuge Nanhua said, this is the first step of our plan. At the same time, pagoda. A middle-aged man wearing Kirin armor suddenly descended in front of the pagoda. It was the commander of the Kirin army. Old man Qin sat cross-legged in front of the pagoda. Sensing the aura of the commander of the Kirin army, he opened his eyes and asked, what are you doing here? Let me tell you a piece of good news. His Majesty is back. The commander of the Kirin army laughed. What? Old Man Qin suddenly stood up, his face full of surprise. He had been guarding the pagoda the entire time. How could he not know that the emperor had returned? What is it? You seem to be very surprised. The commander of the Kirin army looked at Old Man Qin suspiciously. Are you sure that His Majesty is really back? Old Man Qin asked. Yes. He's in the throne room right now. Although I haven't met His Majesty yet, the civil and military officials are all discussing it. And it is said that His Majesty also announced a piece of great news, the commander of the Kirin army said. What good news? Old Man Qin frowned. The commander of the Kirin army laughed. His Majesty has reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm, and is preparing to go into seclusion to comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. How could this be? Old Man Qin was confused. He knew very well that the emperor had not returned to the imperial capital. But why would there be an emperor in the throne room? Could it be suddenly? Old Man Qin seemed to have thought of something. His eyes trembled slightly as he asked, who will be in charge of the imperial court when His Majesty is in seclusion? The commander of the Kirin army said. His Majesty announced in front of the civil and military officials that the state preceptor will be in charge of the imperial court. Old Man Qin was furious. How dare he let someone pretend to be His Majesty? How dare he? The commander of the Kirin army did not know, but Old Man Qin was very clear. He knew what was going on as soon as he heard this. Old man, just you wait. Today I'm going to fight you to the end. Old Man Qin's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He immediately opened the teleportation door and walked in with great anger. What happened? Chapter 1358. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also received the news. Of course it was Yan Wei who told him. But Qin Feiyang didn't say anything, nor did he intend to ask. He continued to copy the Xing formula. Looking at Qin Feiyang's performance, Lu Zhang sighed. His heart was filled with helplessness. Seemed that this time, this little cousin of hers had already steeled his heart to not care. Outside the throne room, the civil and military officials had already left, leaving only the eunuch outside the door. Shua! Suddenly, Old Man Qin and the commander of the Kirin army arrived. The eunuch was about to scold him, but when he saw Old Man Qin, he immediately bowed and said, Greetings, Old Man Qin. That old man is here. In the hall. Hearing the voice of the eunuch, Zhuge Wuho's expression changed. The soundproof barrier set up by the imperial tutor was to prevent others from eavesdropping on their discussion. Therefore, they could clearly hear the sounds coming from outside. Don't panic. The imperial tutor waved his hand, dispelled the barrier, and nodded to Zhuge Nanhua. Zhuge Nanhua understood and immediately took an illusory form pill, turning into the appearance of the emperor. Outside, Old Man Qin glanced at the eunuch, walked to the door and kicked it open. When he saw the emperor sitting on the dragon throne, his eyes were filled with killing intent. At the same time, seeing Old Man Qin's anger, the eunuch was about to stop him. Scram! Old Man Qin suddenly shouted angrily, and a wisp of divine might rushed over. The eunuch quivered and quickly turned around to run. What is going on? Seeing this scene, the commander of the Kirin army behind Old Man Qin became more and more surprised. Old Man Qin stepped into the throne room. The commander of the Kirin army also prepared to follow in. But the imperial tutor waved his hand, and the door closed with a bang, directly blocking the commander of the Kirin army outside. Following that, he waved his hand again, and the soundproof barrier appeared again. What's wrong? Are you afraid that others will know? Old Man Qin sneered. The imperial preceptor smiled faintly and said, What is there to feel guilty about? Old Man Qin sneered as he looked at Zhuge Nanhua, who was sitting on top. His entire body emitted a monstrous aura. You think you can sit in this seat? Get out! In a flash, Old Man Qin appeared in front of Zhuge Nanhua and slapped him across the face. With a blood-curdling scream, Zhuge Nanhua was sent flying and crashed into a stone pillar. Blood spurted out from his mouth. The imperial tutor and Zhuge Wuho were shocked. The next moment, the two of them ran to Zhuge Nanhua's side. Zhuge Wuhou supported Zhuge Nanhua. The imperial preceptor glared at Old Man Qin and shouted, "Old thing, have you eaten the guts of a leopard? How dare you slap His Majesty?" "Your Majesty?" Old Man Qin's hair stood up in anger as he said, "The one who ate the guts of a leopard is you. You actually dared to let someone impersonate His Majesty. How should you be punished?" The imperial preceptor's heart skipped a beat. He frowned and said, "What did you say? What do you mean by impersonating His Majesty? Still playing dumb?" Old Man Qin sneered, took out a facial restoration pill, threw it at Zhuge Nanhua's feet, and said, "Whether it is an impersonation or not, you will know after consuming this facial restoration pill." Zhuge Nanhua looked at the facial restoration pill, and looked at the imperial preceptor in panic. Zhuge Wuhou's face was also filled with fear. How could Old Man Qin be so sure that the emperor was an impersonation? One had to know. The emperor had been killed and his life and death were unknown. Now no one knew where he was. However, the moment Old Man Qin entered the room, he immediately concluded that the emperor in front of him was an impersonator. This was too strange. Could it be suddenly? The imperial preceptor, Zhuge Wuhou, and Zhuge Nanhua's eyes trembled at the same time. Could it be that Old Man Qin knew where the real emperor was? What are you waiting for? Quickly consume the facial restoration pill. True gold is not afraid of fire. If you are really His Majesty, this old man is willing to die for my previous recklessness." Old Man Qin shouted. Looking at Old Man Qin's sinister eyes, Zhuge Nanhua's heart was filled with panic, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Haha, the imperial preceptor raised his head and laughed out loud. Old Man Qin's gaze turned and landed on the imperial preceptor. His old eyes were filled with bone-piercing killing intent. The imperial preceptor stopped laughing and looked at Old Man Qin. "Since you have been discovered, then there is no need to hide anymore. Consume the facial restoration pill." Zhuge Nanhua nodded, grabbed the facial restoration pill and threw it into his mouth. Very quickly, his true appearance was restored. Seeing this, Old Man Qin clenched his fists and said coldly, "You guys are really daring." "Wrong. The one who is daring is you, because you are the one who kidnapped the emperor. Hurry up and tell me, where is the emperor now?" The imperial preceptor shouted. "Heard of it?" Old Man Qin's body stiffened as he cursed in his heart. In a moment of anger, he had actually overlooked this point. Without even asking, he directly attacked Zhuge Nanhua. Wouldn't this expose the fact that he knew the whereabouts of the emperor? No, he couldn't admit it. Old Man Qin muttered to himself, looked at the imperial preceptor and sneered. After being together for so many years, this old man only realized now that you are actually such a shameless person. What do you mean? The imperial preceptor raised his eyebrows. You let Zhuge Nanhua impersonate His Majesty, but in the end this old man saw through it and wanted to bite back, saying that this old man kidnapped His Majesty and wanted to kill this old man. How can your heart be so vicious? Old Man Qin shouted angrily. A bunch of nonsense. The imperial preceptor also glared at him. Don't talk nonsense. Impersonating His Majesty will lead to the extermination of 9 generations. Immediately bring Zhuge Nanhua and Zhuge Wuhou. Follow this old man to the back mountain of the imperial palace, and wait for Emperor Hong to deal with them. Old Man Qin said. Emperor Hong. Hearing this name, Zhuge Nanhua and Zhuge Wuhou's bodies and minds trembled, and their eyes were filled with despair. Emperor Hong, the imperial preceptor muttered. But suddenly the imperial preceptor smiled playfully, looked at Yiglao and mocked, "Exterminate 9 generations? Don't be so naive, I'll tell you the truth. This imperial preceptor has already obtained the permission of Emperor Hong to do this." What? Old Man Qin's body stiffened, and he said in shock and anger, "How is that possible? Obtain the permission of Emperor Hong?" Zhuge Wuhou and Zhuge Wuhou were also stunned, and then hurriedly looked at the imperial preceptor, and asked, "Is this true?" The imperial preceptor nodded. The two of them were overjoyed, and their suspended hearts were finally put down. The imperial preceptor glanced at Zhuge Wuhou and Zhuge Wuhou, then looked at the imperial preceptor and said in a deep voice, "Emperor Hong definitely wouldn't allow you to do such a thing. How can you prove it? Do you want to prove it? This imperial preceptor will give it to you." The imperial preceptor smiled contemptuously, and a golden light flew out from his chi, landing in front of Old Man Qin. It was a piece of golden paper, as if it was cast from gold, flickering with divine light. On it there was only one big word. Hong. But this word, like iron hooks and silver strokes, carried a great majesty, directly pressing down on Old Man Qin's heart. The imperial preceptor sneered. You also recognize Emperor Hong's words, so confirm it properly and see if it was written by Emperor Hong himself, so as to avoid slandering this imperial preceptor again. Old Man Qin did not seem to hear it. Looking at the word Hong on the paper, his old face was filled with disbelief. Why is this so, such an absurd thing, Emperor Hong, why did you agree to it? He muttered to himself, his heart in chaos. The imperial preceptor stepped forward, snatched the paper, and carefully kept it in his chi. Then, he looked at Old Man Qin proudly and said, Tell me, how is your mood now? This old man doesn't believe it. This old man will ask Emperor Hong in person. Old Man Qin said. Whatever. The imperial preceptor smiled coldly. Old Man Qin looked at him deeply, then waved his hand, shattering the enchantment set up by the imperial preceptor. Then he opened the teleportation door, turned around and walked in. When the teleportation door dissipated, the imperial preceptor set up another soundproof enchantment. Zhuge Wuhou and Zhuge Wuhou immediately ran in front of the imperial preceptor and asked in surprise, Old Ancestor, was that really written by Emperor Hong himself? Of course. The imperial preceptor nodded. The two of them looked at each other, their faces full of disbelief. Zhuge Nanhua asked curiously, Old Ancestor, how did you convince Emperor Hong? This matter is a long story. When there is time, this old man will slowly tell you. Now, go and do something for me, the imperial preceptor said, his eyes filled with cold killing intent. What is it? The two of them asked. The imperial preceptor said, Kill people, the more the better. This old man wants to use them to refine bloodfiend pills and increase the strength of our Zhuge family as soon as possible. Yes. The two of them respectfully replied, their eyes filled with a bloodthirsty light. The imperial preceptor continued, In addition, you must protect the little prince well. This child is now a treasure, and there cannot be the slightest mistake. Understood. The two of them nodded. Also, as long as the emperor's corpse is not found, this old man's heart will not be at ease. You must find his corpse as soon as possible. The imperial preceptor said, The Great Qin Empire is so big, how do we find it? The two of them frowned. Pay attention to Old Man Qin. This old man has a feeling that he knows the whereabouts of the emperor. This damned old thing always going against this old man. When this old man ascends to the throne, the first thing I will do is kill him. The imperial preceptor coldly snorted, his killing intent bone-chilling. Then what if the emperor is not dead? Zhuge Wuhou said. The imperial preceptor did not hesitate and laughed sinisterly. It was not easy to take this first step. This old man does not want to turn back, so the emperor must die. Zhuge Wuhou and Zhuge Wuhou looked at each other, bowed to the imperial preceptor, and turned to walk in front of the barrier. The imperial preceptor waved his hand, and a door of light appeared on the barrier. The two of them walked out of the door of light, opened the teleportation door, and left together. The imperial preceptor waved his hand again, and the door of light quickly closed. Then, he turned around and looked at the dragon throne above. After a moment of silence, he walked towards the dragon throne step by step, and a smile appeared on his old face. As he got closer, the smile on his face became brighter and brighter. Finally, he stood in front of the dragon throne, stretched out his old hand, and gently stroked the armrest of the dragon throne. Gradually, his arm couldn't help but tremble. At this moment, a strong desire crawled up in his eyes. Suddenly, the imperial preceptor turned around and sat upright on the dragon throne, looking down at the hall below with a blazing gaze. In a trance. He seemed to have already seen the scene of all the civil and military officials kneeling down and worshipping him. The first step has been successful. Next is the second step. Just wait, it won't be long before the Great Qin Empire changes its name. My Zhuge family will eventually rule this territory. And I, Zhuge Shenyun, will also replace Qin Badian and become the #1 emperor of all time. Those who obey me will prosper. Those who oppose me will die. Ha ha.